fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 200.
Yay!
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems on a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise!
Boom. Etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you, don't ask stupid questions, and don't wander off.
How can you kidneys? I don't like the colour.
Howdy do. Welcome back. After a disastrous week. Last week, we're finally back in the mix, so to speak. We would have got the show out to you last week, episode 200, but we had a little bit of a technical hiccup.
Lots and lots of cybermats in the system last week.
Loads.
It was a catalogue of disaster, wasn't it? Like with all the best intentions that we had, it was all against us last week.
It was, yeah. So Adam and I planned to do this cool sort of in-person recording. I went round to, travelled over to Casse Day, big Geeks Handbag. Oh,
Geeks HQ.
Geeks HQ, yeah. Travelled over there. We got it all set up, didn't we? Lovely.
Yeah.
It all looked good. We're going to put it on YouTube. We had the video. And it turns out that the video cut out anyway. So we only had like 18 minutes of footage from a 2-hour show. And
no sound.
No
either,
sound,
we were going to dub on the sound from the recorded audio separately. So no sound on the video.
Yeah. And our mics doubled up. So we had this horrendous echo that you can't remove in post-production. It's sort of baked into each channel. So it wasn't, I mean, the only good thing is we actually just met up and hung out for, half a day, and which is awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of people said, "Oh, are you sure you two did just get together and get drunk?" And we were like, "Well, no, I wish we had now," because obviously you were driving, so obviously there wasn't any drink flowing. But no, it was really cool to actually meet up, and it's the first time we've sort of done the podcast, it sort of together in the same room, sort of thing, which is something we've wanted to do for ages. Actually, it's just to have that sort of interaction. So it was a good day, and it's a shame because it'll now be this sort of forever lost recording. I think it was Paul McMahon said that it'll be like this. Our friend Paul McMahon. It's like a bit like a lost episode of Doctor Who. It'll forever just be in the vortex. This sort of, lost episode. And it was a great recording. We had a really good day. It was a shame. We were gutted, weren't we, when we sort of, when you got back and sort of listened back to it and started tinkering around doing your stuff, and it was like, we can't use any of it. And I was like, nah.
Yeah, that was the worst
I was
part,
like, well, at least we got the video. And you're like, bad news. I was like, oh no. It was just disaster. But we had a good day, and here we are again.
Here we are.
The only thing is, we know our thoughts on Earthshot now, because we always sort of go to great lengths to keep our thoughts about a review episode, secret from each other, don't we? So that we don't know, what we think of it, and we'll keep our scores hidden right to the end. And I was thinking, oh no, now we know, but it doesn't matter. Our listeners don't know, so it'll still be a surprise. And I think Earthshock, it's one of those stories where people can probably guess anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like a Marmite story like Love and Monsters, where people will be like, oh, do they love it? Do they hate it?
That's true. Yeah. Here we are, though, back for 200. Yes. Before we kick off with our usual bit of waffle and news and merch and so on, yes, we are at episode 200. So that means a very big thank you to all of you that listen, that have picked up the show from its early stages when Adam and I were just kicking off our journey a few years ago now, 2014.
I know.
It kicked off, and Yeah, we were unsure in the beginning, weren't we? We probably said this when we were. You guys have heard this all before when we went to episode 100 and whatever. But it's true. You know, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if you guys weren't going to like it, because there's a fair few Doctor Who podcasts out there already.
Oh, there's loads, yeah.
You know, and there's at least half a dozen that have been going a lot longer than we have, and which I listen to. They're great podcasts, and it was a case of, well, are we going to fit in? Not fit in as in be accepted, but are we going to fit in, and as in, is it saturated at that point? You know, are there too many Doctor Who podcasts out there? And you know, my opinion is there are never too many podcasts of something within reason. You know, if you can find your little space out there, and you know, your little space in the middle of nowhere, as Adam says, that's cool. So we really didn't know what was going to happen, because I did a few shows by myself, and then got Adam in, and Adam, can you come and save me?
And I never left. He invited me in for one show, and I never left.
Yeah,
a bit like Adric. I just, you know, hid aboard the TARDIS.
Yeah,
until I was blown up.
Yeah, that's very true. I asked any listeners that have not been with us since the early days. I did a handful of shows by myself, and then asked Adam on as a guest host for one of those, and the reviews were just really, really good after that show. So I thought, yeah, he's not busy.
Yeah.
I know he's got an awesome YouTube channel, but he can fit this in as well, I'm sure.
I'm trying to think how I discovered you, actually. I'm trying to think how, because I listened to the podcast, obviously, from the very first episode. I'm trying to think, because like you said, there's loads of Doctor Who podcasts out there, and I had a couple of favourites. I've still got them, and you know, but there are a couple of podcasts I used to listen to religiously that sadly have, you know, stopped going. And I have a feeling that, yeah, it was around about that time. I think maybe the Doctor Who podcast, is that what they were called? The guys in the camper van. I used to love that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They kind of finished as we were starting, or you were starting, and it might be just that I was searching for a new one because I like them so much. That might be how I found you. I can't remember, but certainly around the time we were getting going, they were finishing off, and come on to review Remembrance of the Daleks, because I was recommended it to you, thinking he's going to love this, and you didn't. Then do now.
Then, yeah.
Yeah. And then I jumped back on. I think when we started reviewing Series 8, wasn't it? I jumped back on, and then it's been the two of us ever since. And we've been like Morecambe and Wise. We can't go anywhere separately without someone asking us where the other one is.
Oh, no, that's funny.
But
yeah.
I think people think we live in the same house, in the same TARDIS.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, because it's, whenever we go anywhere to any conventions, I don't know if this happens to you, but when I turn up and you haven't arrived yet or whatever, you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, where's Adam then?
Yeah.
Where's Adam? Is he not here today? Is he?" I'm like, well, you know,
we are the ancient Ant and Dec.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, he'll be here. Don't worry. You know, it's just we don't live together, so you know, he'll turn up, you know, whenever. But it is funny that people say that all the time. It's like, where's Gary? Where's Adam? It's like, I don't know. Be here in a minute.
And we live. I was going to say, we don't live close and we don't live far. It's just that sort of awkward enough distance that because it was great to be able to get together last week, like I said, and actually record next to each other, because you do get a slightly different interaction when you're in the same room, rather than how we do it normally like this over Skype. So it was cool, but yeah, it's just we don't quite live that close enough to be able to do that every week, do we? Which is a shame. But anyway, it was good though. It was good to get together. And we have made it to 200. It's not easy doing a podcast every week, but we've made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to echo what you said, actually. Thanks to everyone who listens. Because like you said, you don't know when you do these things. Same with my YouTube channel. You just don't know what reaction is going to be. You might, you know, and we do have great interaction from our listeners on, you know, on the Facebook and Twitter as well. And we love chatting to our listeners about all the stuff going on Doctor Who. There's normally some drama going on for us to have a chat about, and so so thanks to everyone who does listen and download us every week. It makes it worthwhile for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it's whether you, like I said, whether you picked up the journey very early on and you've listened since then, or you just jumped on this week, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much for you know, a lot of people thank us. That's the cool thing. So all the reviews that we have on iTunes, which are really great. So that's another thank you. Everyone that's took the time to leave a review. It's very, very kind of you. It's very much appreciated. And you guys thank us all the time. Thank you for putting the podcast out and taking the time to do it. But thank you for taking the time out of your week to listen to our Doctor Who rubbish. Listen to us talk rubbish waffle for a couple of hours, yeah.
And those of you that listen right to the end of our shows, I know that Gary always says about leaving an iTunes review as well, and says, how much it helps us out. So we've had some lovely reviews on iTunes since we started. So thanks to everyone that has taken the time to do that. And it does help us out. We don't really get a chance to explain this much when the music's counting down and we're trying to sort of fit in all our little goodbyes. But basically, I think the more people review us, the more it pushes the podcast up the sort of iTunes list and places like that, doesn't it? That's how it works, isn't it? So when we say it helps us out, it actually does. It kind of pushes the popularity of the podcast the more reviews we get, so more people can discover us, if that makes sense. So it does help us out. So thank you to everyone that's taken time to do that. And also it's lovely to read as well. I think it's a while ago now. You sent me a review. I mean, this is going back a few months, if not last year. I can't remember, but it nearly reduced me to tears. It was so nice. I can't remember. They're just, some of the things people say about the show, it really does, hits home. And as I said, it makes it worthwhile doing. It's just when you read comments like that, you think, oh, man, that's nice. Thanks. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, getting a bit teary now.
No, not yet. We're only 5 minutes in. Rein it in, man. Rein it in.
Yeah. So thank you. We're here's to another 200, possibly, unless series 13 ends up being a complete fail.
Series 11.
11, sorry. Oh, yeah. The 13th.
I know. I keep doing that. I keep doing that as well. Yeah.
Unless series 11 ends up being a complete washout and Doctor Who gets cancelled, like at the end of McCoy's era, when everyone was like, "Oh, what do you do now then?" Yeah. Well, I guess there's a few books knocking about.
Oh, Nick Briggs will be rubbing his hands. All right, big finish. Come on. Yeah. As if they haven't got enough stuff coming out at the minute. Blimey.
Yeah. So thank you's done. Mr. Adam, what have you been up to in the last couple of weeks since
I was going to say it. Yeah, I've had a good couple of weeks, actually. I've done quite a bit. So, as you know, I love the Peter Cushing Dalek movies, and I'll take any opportunity to get people to see them who haven't watched them. So I went to see our friends, the Who Addicts, a couple of weeks ago up in Middlesbrough, and they did these live streams. So we was trying to think, what episode are we going to watch? And I thought, I'm going to take the Cushing Dalek movies as a bit of a curveball and just see if I can get them to watch them. And we did. They watched both of them, and they really enjoyed them. And I was delighted because, when you love something and then you say to someone, you got to watch this, and then halfway through you can sort of sense that they ain't really digging it. They did like it a lot, especially the second one. They really enjoyed that. So very pleased about that. I got to meet Jodie Whittaker, our new Doctor, in the last couple of weeks as well. She did a tiny little event at Somerset House in London. Mm-hmm. To an audience of 60 people.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't Doctor Who related. It was a chat where she just talked through films that she grew up with, films that have inspired her and that sort of thing. So there was hardly any mention of Doctor Who at all, but it was very interesting and just so great to actually see her in person and how she's such a personality. I mean, I just was sat there thinking, I love her already. I just can't wait to see her as the Doctor, if you know what I mean. And then at the end of it, she sort of got up and I was thinking, I wonder if she's going to do any pictures with people. It's quite a small audience and any autographs. I took along a little picture just in case. And she said she started to walk out the door. I think someone must have asked her, could she sign something? She said, look, I've got a really long name, so I'll be here forever if I sign for you. And I've got to get to that. They were showing some film in Somerset House, after her event. She said, I'm actually going to the film, so I really can't stop. But and there was this little kid in front of her, this young kid who was in the best 13th Doctor cosplay I've seen. It was fantastic. And she looked at him and she said, but I've got to get a picture with this guy before I go. So she got a picture of him. And then I think she looked up and saw all the eyes looking at her and thought, well, I can't just do one selfie. So she said, if anybody wants a quick pic, though, I can't do autographs, but if anyone wants a quick pic, let's do it. And of course, everybody did. So the whole audience kind of got up and she was quickly doing selfies with everyone. And it was brilliant. So I got a cool selfie with Jodie, which, as you can imagine, I was absolutely made up about.
That's awesome.
Frank Skinner was in the audience as well. He's always at these things, isn't he, old Frank? So that was nice to see him. I didn't get a picture with him because I've got one already and I didn't want to bother him. But yeah, he was sat right behind me. So good to see Frank's, still into Doctor Who. And the only other cool thing I've done, mate, is a friend of mine texted me the other week and said, I've taken a few days off work. I really want to do some Doctor Who locations. Do you fancy going out one day? And I was like, yeah. So we were sort of saying, well, where should we go? And we sort of, the usuals come up. Oldbourne, where they filmed, the Damons. I said, oh, that's brilliant. I've been there. He said, oh, let's go somewhere else then. The Android Invasion. Oh, that's a brilliant location. They got a good pub. Oh, but you've been there. Let's go somewhere else. So in the end, we went to Wood Norton, I think it was called, which is where they filmed Spearhead from Space. And they also filmed Robot there as well. So I didn't realise they were the same location until we went. I never knew that. And it basically used to be owned by the BBC. It used to be like part of their sort of like a little studio or something set up there. They've still got a base right at the bottom of the hill. So they've sold off like the main building, which is now a hotel, which is why it's really easy to visit. And then at the bottom of it, there's like this sort of cordoned off iron gates, BBC, do not walk down this road, it says. And, and you can just sort of see like a big satellite dish and Studio 2 through the iron gate. So there's still a BBC presence there, which is pretty cool. But the actual house where they sort of filmed Spearhead, like the interior, was just great. Hasn't changed at all inside. It's all that, I don't know if you remember, all the sort of brown wooden walls that they're walking down at the beginning. I think it's supposed to be a hospital. And then there's a cool bit where the third Doctor takes a shower in this really old metal shower. To my absolute amazement, the shower is still there. It hasn't changed at all. It's like this old Victorian type thing, is it? Is it Victorian?
Yeah,
I don't know. It looks really old and strange. And so I got a quick picture in the shower, put it on Twitter, and got a great response. And then we took a walk up the hill where they filmed Robot. If you remember the robot sort of walking down the hill when he goes all large and goes all King Kong and all that stuff. So it was just, me, I love going to Doctor Who locations, and that was just amazing. So so I've had quite a few good weeks, mate. Really, I'm on a bit of a roller coaster. I'm just all ready now for Series 11. We must be getting close, surely. It must be around the corner now. We're in the beginning of September now, so
yeah.
Come on, BBC. It's got to be soon.
Move it.
Yeah. I'm guessing, I'm going to put it out there. There's been a lot of speculation lately about release dates for it. I'm going to guess the beginning of October, like the first weekend in October.
Yeah, that's what, well, we kind of guessed that, didn't we, very early on, because when we have a very classy looking Google spreadsheet, which has got our plan of all of the shows upcoming that we're going to review. So we plan out normally 2 or 3 months in advance. And right from when we were doing, I think it was back in, April or May, when we started doing the Sarah Jane and Torchwood and all that stuff, we started to map out, right, each week we're going to do this one and this one. And then really early on, we put the first week of October. That's where the schedule stops, because we've just got an entry that just says possible Series 11 start. So we could be bang on from months ago.
That would be really weird, wouldn't it? Yeah, someone would be like, they've got inside information.
Here we go.
But no, that's true actually. Yeah, just kind of, we put it in there, like you said, just as a sort of, well, bung that in there for now type thing. But it could actually be, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So,
there we go.
So that's been me, mate. What have you been up to? You're obviously very excited for Series 11.
Oh, I can't. Oh, do you know what, mate? It's still no what sign of the unless I've very sorely mistaken. Still no sign of the 13th Doctor Pop Funko. Have you seen it anywhere?
No, I haven't. Do you know what? I'm glad you've mentioned that, because as you may have seen, we've got 2 Forbidden Planet stores, and they're totally different companies. So there's .com and then there's .co.uk, isn't there? Which one is it that's just closing down their website? Is .co.uk, isn't it?
FB International, .co.uk.
Yeah. Forbidden Planet International have just put up a thing saying that this is very strange. You won't be able to order online from them anymore. So they're keeping the shops open for now, but you can't order online, which normally it's the other way around, isn't it? Normally the shop's shut, but they keep the online presence going. So it's a very strange move. and it's quite worrying, really. And the reason I mention it is because Forbidden Planet International used to get a lot of the pop vinyls, which were quite hard to get. So I think they were able to source a lot of the exclusives, and they would have more than likely been able to source this 13th Doctor pop at some point. But now, I think unless they're going to maybe get some for store, that's looking almost impossible. And unfortunately, ForbiddenPlanet.com have not been able to source it.
No.
So that means that it doesn't look like it's going to be available through them. So that means it's going to be really difficult to get in the UK. And it's a shame because it looked brilliant, didn't it? I remember we both said, like, I love the look of the 13th Doctor pop. It was an SDCC exclusive, wasn't it? So,
that's right. Yep.
So, yeah, I just got a feeling that's just going to be one of those that's going to pop up on eBay for like hundreds of pounds or something ridiculous. I think that's going to be really hard to get unless .com managed to get some. But at the minute, they're saying they can't get it.
Yeah, it's true. It's a shame, really. So just to confirm, because the naming is a bit ironic / weird for these. So Forbidden Planet International, which ironically has just got a .co.uk website address. That's the one that... so the company isn't closing down, but they're closing down the website, aren't they? So you won't be able to order anything. I think they will have a site, but it won't be... transactional. You won't be able to order any products through it, which is so weird. And the more, I think I can safely say, the more popular website of the two, ForbiddenPlanet.com, because that seems to be the larger brand throughout the UK anyway. Those guys, nothing's changing with them. They're all good. But normally what I found in the past is ForbiddenPlanet.co.uk, they seem to have decent contacts somewhere. They're able, like you said, to source the normally the exclusives.
Yeah,
right. And ForbiddenPlanet.com are usually a week or so late. They normally put them up a little bit after that. So
that's right. We've
really got to rely on the .com guys to make some new contacts or pull their finger out and get that rocking and rolling because it's essential.
I was really looking forward to that. Yeah, I was really because I saw recently as well, because that was the SDCC exclusive, which looked like it's just the 13th Doctor in a coat. And I remember saying to you at the time, so if that's exclusive, what's the sort of standard 13th Doctor pop going to be? Mm-hmm. And then, like, you probably saw this a couple of weeks ago, there was a picture going up of the 13th Doctor pop, but without her coat.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't want that one. That looks boring. It's just her in her T-shirt and braces, and I can imagine, because it's just got that big head and a small thin body with no coat, it's just going to fall over every time I try and stand her. So I was like, no, I don't want that one. I want the one with the coat. I want the exclusive. So yeah, I'm really hoping, I don't know, somehow it gets over to the UK, but it is not looking very promising at the minute, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I know, mate. Other than that, so I've been excited. I think everybody's getting into the on the hype train, if you like, for Series 11. I'm going to get it right, Series 11. So other than that, I've watched a couple of classics after you. So quite recently, and more recently that you've heard us on the podcast, after LFCC. So you queued up and met David Bradley, didn't you? At
yes,
at LFCC. And one of the things that he really liked was when you said to him that you've been a Doctor Who fan pretty much all your life, and An Adventure in Space and Time is one of the most awesome things that Who has put out, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
So that just got me in the mood for it, really. So I think at some point week before last, I shoved that on and gave that a watch after you mentioned that. And,
it's so good.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a few times, haven't we? It really is a cracking story.
It's just one of my favourite things ever to do with Doctor Who. We actually watched that I watched that again with the Who Addicts, actually, when I was up in Middlesbrough the other week. We watched that after the Dalek movies, or even before, I can't remember now, but so good.
Really, really cool. Yeah. And it still baffles me that we don't have a Blu-ray release in the UK for that.
I know.
It's the strangest thing. Anyway, so I gave that a watch, and that's about it, really. I've had a very quiet couple of weeks, Doctor Who wise. So yeah.
Very excited for the season series 19 set that's coming out though, the Davison set.
Oh man.
Because I was thinking the other day, I'm in the mood. Obviously we're reviewing a Davison today. We completely forgot that we reviewed Snake Dance recently as well. So we've done quite a bit of Davison Doctor Who recently. It's funny I say that because we were looking at the schedule. We were like, right, what story should we do for episode 200? And we were looking through and we were like, oh, we haven't done a Davison for ages. And then as soon as we said Earthshock, both of us were like, yeah, Earthshock it is. And we completely forgot that only a couple of weeks ago that we did Snake Dance. Obviously very memorable. So I'm just can't get enough of Fifth Doctor at the minute.
It's it's an interesting choice because a lot of people have said, why have they gone straight to season 19? Why haven't we got, a cool...
Oh, no, I love it.
Troughton, box set, or why haven't we got, season 13, the next one along, Tom Baker. But, I don't know. I think when you and I spoke about this briefly before, I think it's because the Hartnell and the Troughton, and certainly the Pertwee stuff, it's a combination of like missing stories. So you can't really put a decent set together, really. And also the source material, especially for some of Pertwee's earlier stuff.
That's right,
dreadful. Even though they've remastered some of it and they've tried to clean it up, it's still a little bit... it's still a little bit meh.
I know, because a lot of people just assume that the black and white stuff will be the hardest, but actually no, some of the Pertwee stuff is like third or second generation copies that they've had to recolorize, and I'll tell you, his era is going to be a nightmare for them to bring up to Blu-ray standard. I'll tell you now, but no, I'm loving it. So and the other good thing is it's gone straight to the top of the Amazon's pre-order chart as well, which is brilliant. I mean, we're talking about a show that's like 50 years old, or 40 years old whenever it came out. So that's really good. It's very promising that we'll get more box sets, and I'm all for it. I want them all. Especially can't wait for the McCoy era to come out on Blu-ray. That's the set I'm really looking forward to.
Well, I'd have to buy it. I'd have to buy those stories 3 times, essentially.
I know, but that set you've got's lovely. That German set or whatever it is still nice. So I won't worry about it. I'll still buy it again.
It's beautiful, mate. Oh yeah, I'd still buy the new one if they did that.
Yeah, they'll have to get him back from his travels, though, won't they, McCoy? It's like, oh, can you stop travelling around the world, Sylvester? We need you to film a new documentary.
I saw some. I didn't realise he had a website up where they've put a load of pictures of his travels as he goes across. I think he's in. Oh, right. I'm pretty sure he's in Russia now already and doing stuff. I don't know, but he's on his way to Bangkok, isn't he? I was following him on Twitter the other day. And he was like at St Pancras, just on another part of my journey and all this sort of thing. So, it's good. Good indeed. Right. I think that's it for opening waffle. Shall we land the TARDIS?
Okay.
Sad news.
I know, sad news to kick off.
We hate kicking off the show with sad news, and we've got a double whammy of sad news this week.
I know.
Which is not amazing, but let's get into it. So Michael Pickwoad, those of you that are into your set design and all that stuff will know the name. Michael has sadly left us. He passed away at the age of 73. And Michael was the guy that essentially put his vision of what the TARDIS interior was going to look like from his mind onto camera. Basically, he's the guy that he sort of oversaw the look and feel, if you like, of how the TARDIS interior was, how it was laid out and all that stuff. And the actual, design. There's a really cool photo that the BBC released to go along with this story, and he's holding up a little scale model of the TARDIS interior. So this was he took over from Matt Smith's A Christmas Carol story. So from that story onwards, and I think he did it for, where did he work up to? I think he did about 70 episodes from Matt Smith's first Christmas special. So everything that you saw inside the TARDIS and a bunch of other sets as well, all that stuff, he it all came out of his mind. And such an amazing guy. I mean, it always amazes me how people like this can just have, just sitting there, whether they're laying in bed or in the shower or they're at their desk, whatever it might be, they just have this vision pop up in their head. It's like, that'd be really cool for the TARDIS to have this. And then they just take that and design it and model it, and then eventually it ends up as a full-scale prop or a full-scale set. And it's just amazing, and it's really sad. And he also went on to do a load of design work for Class as well. So it's very, very sad. And he did With Nail and I as well, the old McGann.
Oh, God, yeah, great. I love With Nail and I.
Yeah, and also a load of TV work. So Kavanagh QC, Murder Most Horrid, Rules of Engagement, loads of really cool stuff. So anytime that you see one of his shows, you would have seen just this really amazing style. Everything's clean and just so well designed. So it's obviously very, very sad that he leaves us at the age of 73. But what a legacy to leave behind, though. The having your name next to the design of the TARDIS interior. It's just so cool.
Yeah, I must admit, I mean, I love this photo that they've got for him holding up the model of the the TARDIS interior, and I like that interior as well. I was never a big fan of the early Matt Smith one, that sort of very much steampunk orangey TARDIS. I mean, it's okay, but I was much happier when we got this new, for me it looks like a more classic style TARDIS. It was a bit clinical to begin with. It was very silver, wasn't it? And then gradually over time they softened it. They changed the color of the time rotor during Capaldi's era to orange, I think, was it? Because I'm colorblind. Orange or red or orange, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. And it, I think by the end of Capaldi's era, it was such a gorgeous set. It really looked nice. And I think you mentioned before that if you went to Cardiff to the Doctor Experience, that they occasionally did, during certain stages of the year, they'd do sort of TARDIS tours. And I was lucky enough to go on one, and it was just amazing to see. When you first go in, you just see this sort of shell, this big round shell of the set, which is all wood. And then when you go into the actual what you see on screen and walk in it was a gorgeous set. And as you said, when you see the sort of model shot that he's holding up, that translated onto what we saw on screen, I think is just fantastic. Yeah, awesome. So he took over as production designer in 2010, and alongside the TARDIS, he also he created all the sets for the Victorian London stuff through to the Wild West, Badlands of Skaro, Sherwood Forest, the submarine for Cold War, and the Orient Express in space train set. All that, he's done so much. And I'm not sure if he would have stayed on anyway, because when we came to the end of the Capaldi and the Moff era, and we're going to start with the new Chibbers and Whittaker era and stuff, I'm not sure if they would have had a complete redo of all of that stuff anyway. I think so. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, but what a legacy, though. It's very, very, very sad, but it's good that we've got all of his cool work to look back on when we do these marathons and watch through. So absolutely, mate. Yeah. In other sad news, like you said, a double whammy this week. Jacqueline Pearce has passed away at the age of 74. Doctor Who fans will know her best from the Sixth Doctor story, The Two Doctors, and she also starred in the Big Finish audio plays alongside John Hurt as well. So Doctor Who fans will know for that. I, of course, being a massive Blake Seven fan, know her best as Servalan. She appeared in all 4 series of the show. She was a huge part of it as well, giving an absolutely just knockout performance as Servalan. I mean, anyone who's ever watched Blake Seven will just tell you there's just no one quite like her. Her screen presence was incredible. So it's very sad to hear that she's passed away. She did, I know over the years she's battled cancer, and she went off, I think she went and did a load of work in a monkey sanctuary not that long ago, and she was just an incredible, fascinating woman. I'm so glad I got to meet her a few years back as well, because she was exactly how I imagined she would be, if you know what I mean. Sometimes they say never meet your heroes and stuff, and yeah, very, very sad to hear that she's passed away. Really sad. And I knew that you would be gutted about this as well, because
You're a huge Blake Seven fan, aren't you? I think.
I love it. Yeah.
I think you've gone on records to say that it's your favourite.
It is.
Show,
yes, I'm sorry,
it?
Doctor Who fans. Yeah. It is my favourite program of all time, and she's in it a lot. I mean, she's not in every single episode, but she's in it a lot. She plays the sort of main baddie in it, if you like. And it's very hard to put into words. Her performance is just so unique. Mm-hmm. She has something amazing about her. You know, it's just one of those sort of people that when you watch Blake Seven, she makes, you know, because Blake Seven's quite low budget. The sets are terrible at times. The effects are terrible at times. But the performances from the cast in Blake Seven are what make it my favourite show. Mm-hmm. And she was a big part of that. So, yeah.
Very sad.
I hope I'm right in saying about the Monkey Sanctuary, because I'm questioning now in my head if that's right. But I've read her autobiography a few years back, and it was fascinating. Just like the stuff that she did after she left Blake Seven, and she did a few Hammer horror films as well, I think, and stuff like that. So yeah, there was a lot more to her than sort of Doctor Who and Blake Seven. But either way, she was quite the character.
Indeed, yeah. And you met her a few times as well. You said she was, yeah. I
met her a couple of times over the years at various sort of conventions and stuff, and she was just always just very engaging and fun, a very warm personality. Just seemed to really enjoy life, you know. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Last bit of news. Some happier news. This is kind of cool. So BBC Worldwide have announced that they're hosting a special Doctor Who experience at South Africa's first ever Comic-Con.
Wow.
Which is going to tie in with the new series. I love how every single news article that relates in any way to the new series still doesn't put a date on anything.
I know, yeah. It's top secret.
Top secret.
We won't know 10 minutes before it airs. We won't know.
So Comic-Con Africa, being held in Johannesburg on the 14th, 15th and 16th of September. It's going to feature video games, trivia, fan giveaways, virtual reality experiences, and a special showing of Peter Capaldi's finale and the arrival of a new Doctor. The series will be shown something called a Showmax exclusive, and has been described with this little bit of waffle that says, bigger and bolder than ever, Series 11 marks the arrival of the 13th Doctor, a super smart explorer of the universe, alongside a team of new friends and delightful characters. The new series heralds a brand new era of Doctor Who, with a world-class team at the helm. The show will be full of action and adventure, humour and heart, an unmissable high-end drama everyone will enjoy.
Nice write-up.
That's a nice write-up, yeah. So obviously the vibe that they're going for, by the sound of it, is very, very new Doctor Who. Very much Jodie's upcoming adventures and trying to tie in with all that stuff. And apparently the stand number will be B113 in the main exhibition hall. So what do you reckon, mate? Africa getting a Comic-Con.
I know. I think it's very cool, actually. It just, again, it's a little bit more, because the build up to Doctor Who, a lot of people are saying, like, you know, where's the promotion for it and all this sort of, I mean, we could still be a month away from the air date. So I guess we're looking over these next couple of weeks to see what the hype and build up is. I mean, we're assuming we're going to get some hype and build up for it. So this is great. And it makes you think, you know, are we going to get other sort of little exclusive cons? Because you said before about, you know, the cinema showings they had a week before in the Capaldi era, and we're not going to get that with Chibbers. I'm almost certain we're not going to get that, because he doesn't want any spoilers or anything. But it's great to see these sort of cons happening and getting some Series 11 exclusives and content and stuff. So yeah,
indeedy,
very cool. Yeah,
very cool. So that's it for news. Not much else going on really.
No.
Shall we see what old Grumpy Pants has got?
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, did he wreck the place while we were away? You were away last week, or was it the house still standing when you got back?
No, I don't know what's more unnerving. The fact that I got back and the place was still spotless and everything was fine.
Okay.
I don't know what's more unsettling, that, or if I was expecting to come back and see various other Daleks, you know, on their side with beer cans littered everywhere, bits of plungers knocking around, and just bits of Dalek metal, you know, a good old party, but all quiet. Not a sound.
Very unnerving. Better get him in. See what he's like.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Audio annuals.
Yes.
Yes. I think the BBC released one of these a while ago. You know, the Doctor Who audio annual. They did one, and the covers have got that really, really awesome retro old style to it. So there's a new one, the Dalek audio annual, is going to drop in December, the 6th of December. And it sees the release. It's basically a collection of all the vintage stories back from the 70s, read by stars of Doctor Who. So the blurb on this one, it's scheduled to arrive on the 6th of December. It will be packed with exciting tales of galactic terror, global invasion, and the adventures of a band of plucky human resistance fighters. And the special ADF agents will be Nicholas Briggs, involved with the Dalek story.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought it? Louise Jameson and Matthew Waterhouse.
Hurrah.
They will read 5 stories. And all material is authenticated from Terry Nation's Dalek annuals of the 1970s. So it sounds like what they've done is they've picked out a few cool stories from the old 70s stories that they used to do, and they're going to be read by Louise Jameson and Adric. The cover that they did for the previous one, the Doctor Who audio annual, was really cool. This one's just as cool. It'll look awesome on the shelf, I think. What do you reckon, mate? 13 quid.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love it, mate. I've got yeah, you're right. They did the first Doctor annual stories. They did the second Doctor one recently as well. So it's nice they followed it up with this one. I think they're worth buying for the covers alone. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I'll be getting this for sure. £13. When's it actually out?
6th of December.
Oh, right, okay. A perfect Christmas stocking.
Absolutely.
Filler. Yeah, a Dalek anyway. Yep. Yeah, definitely one for me, mate. In other merch news, another thing that's absolutely 100% for me is the next Robert Harrop figure that's coming out, which is, of course, K9.
Affirmative.
Oh, little metal friend. Yeah, we saw what do they call it? A prototype sculpt of this, didn't we, a couple of weeks back?
Yeah.
That Harrop put on their Facebook page, and we both said, "Oh, he looks good." And now he's been released, all fully painted and finished, and he looks fantastic. He's limited to 250 pieces, so he's quite limited. And at the minute, if you order him from the Robert Harrop website, he's £65 plus a little bit of postage. So yeah, you can actually get him now. He's actually gone on sale. These Harrop figures, the popular ones, and I'm pretty sure he will be, that when they sell out, they do tend to go for 3 times the price on eBay. So if you want him, I wouldn't hold back on this. I've already pre-ordered him. I can't wait to get him. He's in scale with the 4th Doctor figurine that they did, which I haven't got, but so that gives you an idea of the size. So he's going to be a smaller figurine, and he's going to be in scale. But yeah, I think he looks great. I can't wait to get this one, mate. You pick and choose the Harrop figures a bit like myself. So is this one for you?
I think so.
Kaner?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's it doesn't say when it's going to come into stock though, because if you go onto the Robert Harrop website, it does say availability in stock. But it says please allow 8 weeks for delivery. So I don't know when that 8 weeks was from. So I imagine it will probably be first couple of weeks of October, maybe towards the end of October. I would have said somewhere around there. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, only 250 of this little guy, and he will sell, I think. I'm really surprised actually when I had a look on the Harrop website when they released the news for this. I'm really surprised that the Special Weapons Dalek still hasn't sold out, because that's 250. However, that's a bit more expensive. That's £95, whereas K9 is 65. So I would say K9 will sell.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I'm very surprised that the Special Weapons Dalek's still available, because we've both got that. And it is, I know 95 is a lot of money, but God, it is a beautiful piece. And they're probably one of my favourite of the Harrop figures, actually. Yeah. The Mandrill sold out. He was limited to, he was 250 as well, I think. The Mandrill figure, he's gone. So he's probably going for about 150 quid on eBay right now, I should think. So yeah, definitely going to get this one, mate. There is I said to you earlier, I was looking at the Doctor Who merchandise page, and there is this Eagle Moss, the company that do that fortnightly magazine that comes with a little figurine, that are normally around about $8.99. They are doing their own K9 as a mega. They do like what they call these mega special magazines. So they do like special magazines, which are normally 20 quid, and then they do these mega specials. I think they did a couple of Daleks, and they're doing a K9 as well. Now he looks perfectly good, but the recommended retail price is £130, and he's currently on forbiddenplanet.com for pre-order. He's coming out in December. He's £123 on there at the minute. Did you say you'd spotted him for 99 somewhere?
Yeah, that's on the official Eagle Moss website.
Oh, okay, so on Eagle Moss he's 99. Either way, I can't see how he's worth twice the price. I mean, I'll have to see the physical thing, but judging by the Eagle Moss figures that I've got, the quality is nowhere near that of Harrop.
No.
So I don't quite know. I just can't see. I mean, I love K9. Normally I'll buy any merch to do with K9, but even I wouldn't pay 100 quid for this Eagle Moss one unless it's, really good. I mean, I will have a look at him when he comes out, but yeah, I just can't see why that's 100 quid. I remember when the Dalek mega issues come out, they were like 100 and something quid, and I thought that's a lot of money. And Eagle Moss quality is not, it's pretty average. I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I'll have a look at him when he comes out to compare. But I'm definitely getting the Harrop one for 65.
I was confused at first because Eagle Moss do have one for $8.99, and I thought, what's going on there? But that's the little. Oh. That's the little, the normal sized.
Oh, they're doing like a little. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that's only sort of 4.6 centimeters high. The little diddy one, but this one you're talking about is the mega one, so it's 23 centimeters. Roughly. Yeah.
I mean, their sort of standard figures are normally, for what they're $8.99. So you think, well, okay, for the money, they're okay. And some of them are great. I mean, they've done they did the Destroyer from Battlefield, which was a fantastic figure for $8.99. And then on the other end of the scale, next week or whatever, they've got the Fourth Doctor season 18 version come out, and he looks blimmin' awful. So again, it's, it's difficult. I tend to cherry pick these a little bit. But as I said, for the price, for $8.99, some of their figures have been great. Yeah. But I don't know that I'd stump 100 quid out on them.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because I haven't released a proper image of it yet either. So we'll have to see.
We will.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. You're a fan of this companion, I'm pretty sure.
I am.
Yes. So, Sheridan Smith is returning as Lucy Miller to team up with Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor in some new Big Finish, which is going to drop next year in July. So there's a new box set on its way. It's the first story is called The Dalek Trap. Story number 2, The Revolution Game. Number 3, The House on the Edge of Chaos. And the last one, Island of the Fendal.
Oh, cool.
Ooh. So yeah, The Further Adventures of Lucy Miller.
She did a load of the Eighth Doctor adventures a few years back, and they were brilliant. They were just little standalone single CD releases, and they were great. They did 4 series, I think, of them, and I really enjoyed them.
That's right, yeah. So, sorry, this box set is set in between her first and second run of her adventures. Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of an in-betweeny one with Paul McGann. And Nick Briggs, who's obviously the exec producer, as he is on all of the Big Finish stuff, said that we always had in mind to bring back Lucy. We only let her go in the first place because we could see Sheridan's stratospheric career path approaching. Now, was this something to do with her music career as well? Because she did go off and have a few fairly substantial acting parts in a couple of TV series. And
she did.
Yeah, and then she brought an album out and stuff. So it sounds like she's been busy doing other stuff, but now she's got a break from queuing up at the job centre. So she's back at Big Finish. So I'm not sure exactly on the details of the story. They have got a little bit of blurb. So the Dalek trap sees the Doctor behaving distinctly out of character and Lucy having to take control to thwart the Daleks. In the Revolution game, there's something sinister in the far-flung future Earth colony, and Lucy is forced to partake in a perilous roller skating contest. Oh dear. The house on the edge of chaos sees the Doctor and Lucy trapped in a bizarre building packed with eccentric social class-obsessed characters and an emerging alien foe like no other. And the final adventure, Image of the Island of the Fandau, the classic Doctor Who creature, the Fandau, makes its first appearance on audio since the first TV story starring Tom Baker. So, this sounds pretty good. I mean, I really like Lucy Miller. The other stories that I've listened to, the Paul McGann stuff, I thought she's been really cool. A lot of people thought she'd be a bit sort of common, chavvy, blah, blah, blah. But no, I thought she's pretty good.
Think her and McGann, I think, are great together. Yeah, I'm thrilled about this news, actually, because, I do really like the Eighth Doctor's adventures with Lucy Blading Miller. They do work incredibly well together. I remember when I spoke to McGann, years ago at one of the LFCCs, and, I can never think what to talk to them about when I get to the table, but I did actually say to him, I love this Big Finish stuff with Sheridan. I said, you two really bounce off each other brilliantly. And he was like, funny thing is, half the time we're not in the same room. He said, half the time we record completely separately and they mix it together. But I'm glad you liked it. And I was like, oh, right. And so they are great together. So this is coming out in July 2019. God, seems ages away. And it's £25 on CD or $20 on download for pre-order. I am pleased she's going back. I've been buying all the sort of Eighth Doctor stuff from Big Finish, and although they're all very listenable and very enjoyable, I do feel that he slightly got lost. Right. They've slightly lost their way a little bit because, after the Eighth Doctor Adventures, which were brilliant, we got Dark Eyes, which started off great. The first Dark Eyes box set was excellent, and some of the other stuff afterwards was good as well. Then we got Ravenous, and then they started releasing the Time War stuff at the same time as Ravenous, and it's all got a little bit messy, I think, right. With the Eighth Doctor stuff. It's, as I said, there's some great stuff in there, but it's also been almost a sort of, I don't know, just feel like he's got a little bit lost. So I think this brings it back to just the Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller, and I'm quite excited about that. So yeah.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff. And lastly then, bringing us up to our 13th Doctor, Titan Comics have got a whole brand new series of adventures coming out with the new Doctor to obviously tie in with the TV series. So these are coming out at the end of September, I believe. They're up for pre-order. So October. So 17th of October, these are coming out, the very first issue. Now, we like our variant covers, don't we, Gary?
But we do.
How do you feel about the fact that issue 1 of the new 13th Doctor Adventures is going to have 13 different variants, variant covers? It's a bit much. I see what they've done there. They've thought 13th Doctor, 13th covers, but I won't be buying all of these, I'm afraid. Although there are some great ones, I will buy a couple of them. I absolutely love the Doctor Puppet variant. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's quite cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one of the Doctors sort of kneeling on the ground, which looks really nice. Then there's another one which is by an artist. What's her name? It's normally quite good, but
Alice Zhang.
But I'm actually not overstruck on that.
It's okay. It's not one of her best covers. It's okay.
Yeah. Any grabbing you there?
There's a couple. So the puppet one is quite quirky.
Yeah, it's great. I love
one. I like the standard cover actually. Not one that's a variant. Cover A by Babs Tarr. I think that was a really cool sort of cartoon.
That's just a kneeling on the ground one, is it?
No, that's the main cover A. It's like a cartoony version. It's in the large image that they released. It's it's just the Doctor sort of with a very pink, purpley, sparkly background.
One. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
So I really like the standard cover A, and then the other one that's quite cool is cover D by Rachel Stott. It's the Doctor lifting up the lid of something and she's reaching through to help somebody out, it looks like, which is quite cool. There is a really cool cover, which I'm not seeing anywhere in the publicity shots, but Will Brooks has done a really nice cover.
All right.
Which I'm not seeing here, but that's really cool. But like you, I won't be buying all of them. I think 13 variants is a bit... unless Forbidden Planet do like a special offer where you buy all of them and they'll knock like £10 off or something. I'm not sure, but I don't know. But
there's a strange one here as well. This is I don't think they've done this before. They've done a cosplay variant. Now, some people might love that, but for me, firstly, I'm thinking, I don't want a Doctor Who comic with some random cosplay girl on it. I don't know. I think that's a really odd variant, but some people might really like that. I don't know. I don't think you won't be picking up the cosplay variant, will you?
I don't think so.
No. And some of the covers haven't been revealed yet as well, so there's still a few that are just blank on the website at the minute. So we'll see what they're like. Yeah, a
little bit hit and miss these ones though. I won't be picking all of them up, but it's good though that we get a new bunch of stories for the 13th Doctor, and hopefully it will coincide nicely with the Series 11 kicking off, because again, these guys have not put any concrete dates. Actually, you said, what was it, something of October?
I think on forbiddenplanet.com you can order them, and it's 17th of October is the date given at the minute. Might change, but yeah.
Okay, so that sounds like a week or 2 weeks after the series kicks off. So
sounds like it, yeah.
That might be cool. Okay. Rightio. News and merch done.
Yep.
So for episode 200, we're doing a story of a Doctor that we've not reviewed in months and months.
We just can't get enough of Davison at the minute.
Yeah. So what are we doing this week, buddy?
So yes, it's the classic Fifth Doctor story this week. It's time to say goodbye to Adric, so tissues at the ready. It's Earthshock.
We have intruders in the hold.
I want them caught. You're trying to make a fool of me. It's all true. A bomb on Earth, controlled from this ship.
Whoever planted it is now in your hold.
They'd hide an army down here and no one would find it.
How many of these silos are you carrying? 15,000.
They're an invasion force.
What are they?
Cybermen.
We meet again, Doctor. This time we will not fail.
This time we will not fail.
I know that face. Kill him. Kill him at once.
Kill him.
Very British Cyberman.
Very, very British Cybermen.
Yeah.
Right then, Earthshock. It was first broadcast back in March of 1982. It was a four-parter. It was written by Eric Saywood and directed by Peter Grimwade. The stars, it's got a fairly substantial supporting cast, and our time team of Nyssa, Tegan and Adric alongside Mr. Davison. Hello. Mr. Davison. Well, it's yes. Mr. Davison is the Fifth Doctor, and the story is thus: the Cybermen are back, and their plan is to blow up the Earth.
Yeah,
and they do this via hijacking one of the space freighters, I think the best way to describe it. And there's a giant bomb on board. They've done the off, and it's slowly cruising towards Earth. It's going to wipe out the human race. The only person left who could potentially save the day is our whiny little companion, Adric. And fortunately or unfortunately, I'll leave you guys to decide on what word you want to use there. He doesn't solve the equation and ends up getting blown to smithereens. I'll leave it up to you to decide on your feelings on Adric, if that's a good or a bad thing. But along the way, we have lots and lots of people getting captured, Cybermen getting shot, lots of candy cane-looking lasers going off. And there we go. So Earthshock mates.
Yeah, it's lots of death, isn't there? It's typical Eric Saywood.
Yeah.
Loads of people, loads of death.
Eric Saywood, quite dark. What do you reckon to this one then?
I love it, mate.
You love it?
I do. I love Earthshock. I think it's a great story, and one of the few where I think, you can't say it's overrated. I just think it is an absolute gem of a story. It's dark, gritty, loads of action, lots going on. It's a good one, this. And obviously, I think the fact that Adric is killed off is quite a milestone for the show, really. It stayed with me. I mean, I was there back in 1982, was it? 1982, yes. I was there watching the TV. I would have been 5, 6, 7 or 8 years old, so quite young. And couldn't quite believe my eyes that when Adric blew up. I seriously couldn't, actually, joking aside. I remember thinking, he can't be dead. He'll be back next week. Surely the Doctor will go back and rescue him. But hang on a minute, there's no music over the end credits. That's a bit strange. But no, I'm sure he'll be saved next week. And he wasn't. And, I mean, as a sort of 7 or 8 year old, I must admit, at the time, Adric was the character I, sort of related to. I wanted to be Adric. I wanted to be traveling with the Doctor in the TARDIS like Adric. So I've always sort of quite liked him in a way because of that. I've sort of grew up with Adric as a companion. So yes, he's annoying. He even says at the beginning of this story, doesn't he, that everyone's treating him like a joke, and he's a bit of a brat. And Matthew Waterhouse wasn't the best actor, as I think he will acknowledge. But I did think it was sad, and I at the time as a kid, so it had an impact on me. But I also think absolutely the right move to kill off a companion and add a bit of danger that actually, it's not always safe traveling with the Doctor. I mean, one of the things I think that in the new series is, especially with Rory, perfect example, killed off about 20 times during the Moffat era, always brought back to life. If you keep doing that, it totally defeats, any sort of sense of danger at all. And you just think, oh, well, they're going to get out of it every week. And I think this showed us that, Adric doesn't get out of it. The Doctor couldn't go back and save him. And although I think he probably could have if he'd really wanted to, but, it just brought it home, and definitely the right decision to kill him off, I'm afraid. But yeah, I just think it's a very good story. It's a good Cyberman story as well. I know we said they're very British, which they are. They're very posh, dogging Cybermen. But I do think it's a great Cyberman story as well. They're also very threatening. As well as being posh, they do have a threat level in this story. They're not a pushover like in sort of Silver Nemesis or something like that. They do go round, and then, they get shot 1,000 times, but they don't get killed. They keep coming towards you, and they do kill a lot of people. And I think they're good in it. So I think it's a good Cyberman story as well. So yeah, high praise from me on this one. I like it a lot.
High praise. Indeed.
What about you, mate?
Yeah.
Overrated or a good one?
No, I think this is a cracking story. And I can see why a lot of people do have that opinion that it's overrated. But I think because this is Davison's first series, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So we have, talking on experience, sometimes it does take that first series to get out. You get that one out the way, and then we typically find that actors find their feet and they bring sort of their own version, their own little nuances to the character, how they want the Doctor to be received by people. And with the exception of Matt Smith, who for me was a Doctor that just hit the ground running and was, very consistent from the 11th hour.
Yeah.
He was, his performance didn't change too much in how the way that he was written changed slightly over his era, but how Matt Smith played the Doctor was, for me, the most consistent of all the actors. But in some respect, that's true of Davison. But it's really, when you watch stories like this one, you think, crikey, this was only his first series, and he's really going for it in this one. His performance is brilliant throughout this entire story, really. And it was a great reveal. I remember reading that, obviously I didn't watch this when it first went out. I was only 2 years old, but I remember reading that John Nathan Turner did a great job of concealing all of the twists and reveals. So nobody knew that the Cybermen were going to come back. That end of episode 1 cliffhanger must have been a belter for people watching it live at the time. And he also kept Adric's death all wrapped up, and that was a real twist at the end of the whole story as well. So obviously a lot easier to do back then. There's no internet, no social media, nothing leaks as it does today, but it still would have been a bit of a challenge to keep all of that, to stop anybody talking to newspapers or anything like that. So really good job of keeping it all under wraps. And like you said, it's a bit of a milestone as well. The death of Adric at the end is very, what's the word? Very, not important, but very poignant in that, in that, like you said, it's not always, traveling with the Doctor was almost invincible up to that point. You know, the Doctor's always going to be there to save you, is always going to be around. And, you know, unfortunately, even in newer Doctor Who, and especially in the Moff era, even when you're dead, you're not really dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and also, yeah, of course, Clara, that's another perfect example, isn't it? Killed her off in Face the Raven. Next week, she's back. It just, yeah. And, you know, that's one thing I love about classic Who is, no, if you're dead, you're dead.
That's right.
You know, there's none of this going back and shooting fellow Time Lords and saving companions. None of that.
None of that
nonsense.
Malarkey.
No, it's just been and done. I do just got to quickly pick up on what you said about the lengths JNT went to conceal Adric's death as well, because he even, you know, gives him a cameo in the next story, Time Flight, simply just so that his name appeared in the following week's Radio Times, so people wouldn't even suspect, because they're like, oh no, he's, you know, Matthew Waterhouse is in next week's story. So just that brief cameo was just enough to get a credit in the Radio Times to help conceal the fact that he got killed off. So yeah, I like the fact that JNT went to those lengths even back then.
Clever. Yes. Okay, we'll come on to Adric in a little while. And his final scene and so on. But overall, I think that the direction and the editing on this story was really, really enjoyable to watch. And it's one of those classic Who stories where when we've reviewed classic Who in the past, we normally split up the viewing of said episode. So what I normally do is watch 2. If it's a 4-parter, I'll watch 2 together, and then 3 and 4 maybe the following day or later that evening. But this story is one that I can put on at the beginning, and I'll happily sit there and watch all of it until the end of episode 4. It's really one of those stories that I can just watch all the way through.
I'm the same, mate. I actually watched it all the way through. Yeah, I didn't even think about it really, because like you, sometimes I break them up. I'll watch 2 and think, right, you know, sometimes the story benefits from having that little gap, because you sort of come into it wanting to watch it. But yeah, this one I blitzed straight through all 4 episodes without even really thinking about it. I just was enjoying it that much, and I've seen it a few times as well. You know, it's not as if it's like a story that I haven't sort of seen, or I knew exactly what was coming, but I still really enjoyed watching it again. Yeah.
Or if it's a bit of a slow one, just watch it on 1.5 speed.
I can honestly say I've never done that. I'm not going down that road, but no,
Come on.
No, I have never done that.
No, me either.
Even with stories like the following story, Time Flight, I've always watched them as they should be. But sometimes they do benefit from being, you know, watching 1 or 2 and then the other 2 the following night. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with classic Who, isn't it? It wasn't designed to be binge watched all together. You know, at the time they were going out once a week, so they were written in such a way that, it was once a week kind of thing. They weren't, you know, they didn't foresee back in the 70s and 80s that fans would buy them on a disc. What the hell's a disc?
Multiple reissues of DVDs and Blu-rays. No, that's absolutely true.
You know,
I was just going to say, I must pick up what you said about the direction now. I think Peter Grimwade does a fantastic job on this. Yeah. The direction is excellent, and they talk about him on the making of. He wasn't very popular with the cast. I think the cast found him very difficult to get on with. I mean, they make no bones about that on the making of on this DVD, but at the end of the day, he got the result, I think, you know, and I think they will agree with that, even though they found him tough to work with. At the end of the day, what is, you know, on screen, what he managed to produce is brilliant. And as I said, they will agree, you know, the actors involved will agree with that as well. They think it's a great story. So tough director, but he got results, I think.
He got results. And I think I'm going to go out on a bit of I'm going to walk the plank a little bit here, but I would say that sometimes that's needed with directors. of course, it helps if everyone gets along and it's all nice and family feel and all that stuff. It's, Brucey bonus. But I think that at some point, because Doctor Who seems to be the type of show, and I'm no expert in this area, but I'm assuming that a lot of shows are like this, where there's lots of fingers creeping their way into the pie. There's one big pie and there's lots of fingers in there. So whenever you've watched the behind the scenes, especially in new Doctor Who, alongside the director of a said episode or story, you've also got a lot of people chipping in. So you've got obviously the showrunner at the time. So he would have been John Nathan Turner on this one. Or if it's the Moff or RTD or whoever it is, and you've got the other producers, and then you've got the actors, and then you've got other people. It seems to be that you don't hire the director. Like on a film, on a feature film, you have the director and they oversee everything. And it's their decision on what happens and how things look, and they work alongside the producers. It seems to me that with Doctor Who, sometimes the director doesn't really, and the writer as well, those guys don't really have the final say sometimes. You might have the producer that says, actually, we're going to do it like this. And they're like, So for me, I would say that sometimes having a strong director, even if you have to upset a few people along the way, it feels like it's a good thing, because the way I see it is that if somebody approached me and said, we want you to direct a story, I'd be like, okay, cool. And then when it came down to it and you're on your first day and people are saying, actually, I know you want to do it this way, but we're going to do it. I'd be like, no. No, you hired me to direct this because you appreciate the talent. So I'm going to do it the way I should feel it. If that upsets you, there's the door over there. Don't let it knock you on the way out, sort of thing. So I think ruffling a few feathers and upsetting a few people, I think sometimes is a good thing, because it feels like with regulars, especially in Classic Who, people that have worked together a long time, writers and producers and stuff, it can get a bit too comfortable. So I think sometimes you need somebody to come along that just says, right, we're going to do it this way. And if they're like, oh, we don't really work like that, it's like, well, tough. This is what we need to do. We need to achieve this. So just get on with it.
He was very much an on-the-floor director. I mean, a lot of directors would sit up in the gallery to direct, but apparently Peter Grimwade was right down there in the action, doing his little, let's get this shot right and stuff. And I do agree with you. I mean, I think Davison's obviously, it's his first series, so he's probably not maybe confident enough to sort of question too much of what he was being told to do. I'm sort of thinking back to Tom Baker in his sort of later years when directors found him very difficult to direct, and don't know how Peter Grimwade would have handled that. Would have been fireworks, I should imagine, him and Tom together. But yeah, at this point, I guess Davison wouldn't have questioned it too much even. But at the end of the day, I think what he's managed to get on screen is fantastic, and it does look good. This was made in 1982 or when aired in 1982. For me, it still looks very good. A lot of Davison's era is quite overlit, very bright sets, and in this it's quite dark, which is unusual for Doctor Who back in the classic era, because they used to like to turn all the studio lights up to full, no matter what. So we get quite dark caves, and the sort of ship hangar where a lot of the action takes place is quite dark as well. It really adds to the atmosphere, I think, in this. So he did a very good job.
No, I agree. And when they re-released it on DVD, they did say that they went through like a remaster, a clean-up of the original footage and so on, and it looks fantastic on the DVD. And I can't wait for this to come out on the new Blu-ray box set that's coming out. When is it? November, is it now? It's been put back, hasn't it? Is it November
It'll
now?
probably go back, yeah.
So I can't wait to watch it on that when it's had a re-look at it and an upscale and so on. So, but I think because I haven't watched this one in a little while, I remember sticking it on and thinking, even the opening, because sometimes Classic Who, there's a bit of a jarring effect between on-location stuff and set stuff. There's a real big difference in...
Oh, you can tell, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, this is really consistent. So the opening shots when they're climbing around the hills in the quarry and stuff, and then when it cuts to the ship's sort of command deck place, and even the cave, like you said, and the hangar, which is really dark. You don't really notice much of a big shift in sort of picture quality between the two. But it's done a really good job of, I think, the restoration team, those dudes that sort all the picture quality out and so on before it goes out. They did a fantastic job. So I remember watching it thinking, this looks really good. I know we're in the 80s now, and equipment's moved on at this point from the Pertwee era and the Baker era and stuff. It's all, moved in the right direction. But some of it still, there are a few Davison stories that still look a little bit ropey. The next one, for example, Time Flight, even that's got a few ropey bits in it where it doesn't look very good.
Yeah, it does. It does look very clean and crisp. I'm sort of thinking back to Enlightenment as well. I remember when I got the DVD of that, and it's like the dark scenes where the TARDIS lands in the boat hold.
Yeah,
it really looks grainy, and I was thinking, God, this has been remastered as well. Imagine what the original sort of source material looked like. This does look very clean. Like I said, the location shots at the beginning look good. And yeah, you're right. Actually, it's not. Sometimes when we cut from from location to studio, it can look really jarring, can't it? That's a very good point, actually. Yeah, it does flow really nicely, this story. So I agree with you on that, mate. Yeah, it does. It does look very good.
Yeah, and the way it's edited as well. Not so the direction's great, as we've said, but the way it's been edited together, because it does have a nice mix, that really cool classic Who mix of, there's a bit of action in there. There's some really nice scenes between certain characters. And in some classic Who stories, those are the bits that normally feel like it's dragging along a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
When you've got something fairly fast-paced going on and some action, that's done with, and then we cut to just maybe two people talking. And it's those scenes that sometimes can drag on a little bit, and it makes it feel like a bit of a slog maybe.
Especially as the Cybermen reveal is held off right to the end of episode 1, because I didn't find episode 1 boring at all. In fact, I really liked the first episode, and it's like you said, we're mostly dealing with we're being introduced to new characters, and they're a sort of group of what are they doing? They're in that cave.
Yeah, so I think they're like there's a geologist type thing. So not that could quite easily be boring, but it's not at all. Actually, it's like the tension's really good in that first episode with these strange androids that the Cybermen are using for some reason, going around picking off all these sort of people in the cave. And I was saying to you, wasn't I, that it's funny that when they get killed, the only thing that's left is that very conveniently is the name badge on the person. So that's but it does. It's a great atmosphere, and I find episode 1 really engaging, considering a lot of it is new characters that. Sometimes if you get people who aren't particularly good at acting, and you get a group of them for a majority of an episode, it can become very boring very quickly. And thankfully that's not the case for this one. I think they're really good. Yes.
Yeah.
And then story-wise, it's a fairly decent story across 4 parts. And when was the last Cyberman story then?
Is it Revenge of the Cybermen, I think? Was
Revenge
the Baker one back in 75. I don't think they appeared after that till now. I think I'm right in saying that, yeah.
So obviously you have the big classic Doctor Who style monster back in this one. So the Cybermen and the Daleks, they seem to be, the big two throughout, classic Who. And I was really enjoying the story even before the Daleks, even before the Cybermen reveal at the end of episode 1. I thought it was going along really nicely. And then once the Cybermen come into it, we do have a real nice build-up of suspense, if you like, or tension, or whatever it is, across those other 3 episodes, because they do have a bit of a master plan, the Cybermen. It's although they have little hiccups along the way, they do have this master plan, and it's right until the very end. It's a kind of we'll come on to it in a minute, but the ending's a little bit convenient, isn't it? It's a little bit
with the dinosaurs, you mean?
The dinosaur and the time shift and that stuff. So it does sort of wrap up slightly conveniently at the end. I mean, it's not a terrible ending; it's still good. But the build up from the cliffhanger at episode 1 through to that, the last part of episode 4, is very, very cool. And for a Cyberman, because just like the Daleks as well, the Cybermen have got sort of hit and miss stories, haven't they, across all of Doctor Who? So sometimes you do have those stories and you think, oh, come on, you know, they're better than this. The Daleks are better than this. The Cybermen are better than this. And it's usually down to their threat level where it sort of loses its way for me anyway. So if I'm watching a Dalek or a Cybermen story and I think, especially in newer Doctor Who, the Cybermen seems to be a bit wet.
I don't really like them in the new series. I particularly don't like the redesign in the new series. I mean, I love the design of them in this. Yeah. I love because in Revenge of the Cybermen, they have a very different look, don't they? Yeah. I prefer this. I really like the sort of 80s Cybermen look, especially sort of like just overall design of them. I think is much better in this. Yeah.
They look awesome in this.
I think it's a better Cyberman story than Revenge as well. I haven't watched Revenge for a while. I don't think we've reviewed it, have we? Have we reviewed?
No.
So I'll keep my feelings on that one quiet then for now. But I think in terms of a Cyberman story, they're a bit more kick-ass in this one.
Yes, they are indeed. Yeah. And so for me, some Cybermen stories, it's the same with the Daleks as well. They just feel like they're not threatening enough in some stories. It feels like they're used more of almost like a plot device for something else.
Yeah.
In some stories. Like what was the new is it the Age of Steel and something else? The Tennant story. Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel. You know, it felt to me like they were just used as a bit of a plot device because there was a more important character. It was the old guy. Was it Trigg from Only Fools? What's the character's name?
Yeah, Luminic or something like that. Yeah.
So, there's in this story, though, it's just the Cybermen. They're not backed by some old rich dude somewhere. They're not used by another monster or villain anywhere else. It's just them. They're back to their old ways. They want to conquer the universe. The first step is to remove the threat of the human race and their military stuff. And even though the Doctor tells them at some point in the story that humans have sort of branched out into space, and even if you destroy the Earth or life on Earth, there's still humans around, that's not going to go away. Their reaction or their reply is just, well, it will be a good show of force, if we do this, it will show them that we mean business, sort of thing. So I love that they're back to their old ways, and it's just them trying to conquer everything, and they do seem threatening as well.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire story, they don't mess around. They'll happily kill people, and this is one of those darker classic Who stories. A lot of people die in this, and I think overall the story and the way it builds and the way that the various groups, because it's another one of those tried and tested formulas with classic Who where you have the main cast sort of branch off into two teams, which we see quite often, don't we, where not all of the companions and the Doctor stick together throughout the story. So you have Tegan that goes off with the other military and the Doctor group. You have Adric and the Doctor off on their, they get captured, don't they, along with the other crew members of the freighter. And Nyssa, unfortunately, just gets
shoved in the TARDIS as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor old Nyssa.
Yeah. And the way in which the Cybermen have to deal with both of those different things is great. And I think that's what makes it a cool, along with some of the performances, that's what makes it a cool story for me. So the Cybermen being threatening again, really cool, back to their old ways. And then you've got Tegan doing her thing. You've got the Doctor doing his thing. And it all kind of culminates nicely at the end with this very sad ending, obviously, depending on your view of Adric. Very sad ending, but also a really satisfying ending as well, if that makes sense. It's not one of these endings where everything's wrapped up super quick and conveniently and a big reset button pushed. It's not one of those. It does end fairly quick, but it's been a build up to that point. And
because I mean, even the fact that we get to see dinosaur bones in the cave wall, don't we, and all that, and you don't really think everything of it at the time, but obviously when we get to the end and we're like, oh, okay, dinosaurs wiped out, gotcha. I also love the fact that Cybermen recognise the TARDIS before the Doctor, because they see the Doctor's face, but he's regenerated, so they don't recognise him to start with, but they see the TARDIS and they start putting two and two together, don't they? That's the other thing I like about the Cybermen in this, is they're not stupid. They actually, they're quite clever and they piece things together, and we get that lovely flashback scene, don't we, with all the Doctors, all the sort of previous Cybermen stories. I love, I like it when we get a flashback scene in the classic era, because they do it seems to be there for a reason, right? And it's only every now and again, if you know what I mean. It's not like the modern series. I mean, like in Twice Upon a Time, we had that strange scene, didn't we, where the first Doctor's shown all the previous Doctor incarnations. He's like, I don't recognise these people and all that. But in this one, we just get a nice, simple little flashback scene to sort of show us the previous Cybermen stories and bring us up to date. So I like that. I like that bit. It's not my favourite flashback scene. My favourite flashback scene is the Mordred Undead one with the Brigadier, where the Doctor's trying to get him to remember, and that mainly because of the music. I think.
It's cool.
It's such a good flash. But this is a good flashback scene as well. Yeah.
It's always cool having a flashback scene, as long as
they don't do it too often. Just now and again.
You read my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think to the motives then of the Cybermen in this? Because as far as we can see, the only their sort of sole purpose, their sole reason, if you like, is to put this little briefcase-sized bomb on onto the freighter. Because I think the story changes slightly, doesn't it, halfway through, because the Doctor disarms the bomb. And it's then that they come up with the idea of crashing it into the Earth. Is that right? Because it
seems to be. Because I must admit, I was sort of thinking, when I was watching this again the other night, that bomb, the first bomb, like you said, the sort of the tiny bomb. I was thinking, is that supposed to blow up the world? Because that's quite a small bomb. So I wasn't quite 100% sure what was going on there, because it seems to me like, because the Doctor diffuses that bomb, they're then like, oh well, okay, plan B, let's just use this freighter that we're hiding on to smash into the Earth and blow it up then. So it seems to me that bomb should have been a little bit bigger, the original one, if it's supposed to blow up the world. But it's I guess it doesn't bother me too much. I guess it's just the way Davison handles those scenes are pretty good. Because there's that bit where he sort of burns his hand and he starts using his jacket to go through it. I was quite convinced by it. I was thinking, I can see he's working the scene, Davison, quite well. So
yeah. And the story kicks off quite in a funny manner. Did you like the little ruck between Adric and the Doctor at the beginning?
Yeah, I did. But it's funny because you were talking earlier about it being Davison's first series and him still finding his feet as the Doctor. And I think Davison's good in all of his stories, but he definitely gets better towards the end of his era. I mean, he's absolutely on fire by the time we get to Count Androzani. I think in this one, he's, a little bit shaky at the start. So those scenes with him and Adric are a little bit, I wouldn't say he's on top of his game yet. They're perfectly good. But he's a little bit, because he's getting really frustrated with Adric, isn't he? And he's like, it's a lot of huffing. And then he decides that the best place to go to relax is a cave, which I find really bizarre. He's like, I need some time out. I'm just going to land the TARDIS in this cave and chill out for a bit. He hits his stride for me once he starts disarming that bomb, and then the Cybermen are introduced, and then by the sort of, by the time he actually meets the cyber leader, I think Davison's fantastic in this story. Gets that brilliant speech, doesn't he, about little things being important to people and a home cooked meal or something, something strange. But that's a great scene, and he's so good in moments like that. He really sort of again seems to have found his Doctor quite quickly. Whereas I think at the beginning he's a little bit. I'm not too sure. I didn't really feel he was sort of huffing and puffing a little bit too much, I thought, at the start. but he's great once he does hit his stride in this story.
Once he gets going, yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
There's a couple of cool little twists in the story as well. Some people have sort of 50-50 opinion on this one, but did you like because I find it a little bit too convenient. So when the Doctor and Tegan are in the cave at the beginning, they find the fossils in the wall, the dinosaur, and Davison, the Doctor gives a tiny little speech as to, what they are and stuff, and how the dinosaurs were wiped out. And then at the very end, it's all, the jigsaw puzzle fits back together, that the reason that the dinosaurs were wiped out wasn't because a random meteorite had struck the Earth. It's actually the freighter with the bomb on it that Adric couldn't sort out. So that's the first one. It's like a little twist. It's like, so it sort of links back to the beginning of the story and so on. And then we have the other little twist where the what was he, like the third in command or second in command? I think his name's Snyder. The guy on the ship, he's actually a traitor, isn't he? He's in cahoots.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
He's in cahoots with the Cybermen. He sort of enables them to stow away on the freighter in the first place and helps them sort of come onto the command room and so on. So there are a couple of little twists in the story, quite clever. What do you reckon to the dinosaur bit?
Yeah, I don't mind the dinosaur bit, actually. I quite like that, because they do that a few times in Classic Who, don't they? They do it in another Davison one, don't they? The Visitation, where they do the Great Fire of London and tie it in. And I think it's okay as long as you don't do it every week. Otherwise, it gets a little bit too convenient, doesn't it? It's like, the Doctor was there, and a bit like, it gets annoying, a bit like the Clara thing in Modern Who, where, Clara was there when the Doctor chose his TARDIS, and Clara was there when then. It's like, does she need to be there every week? It's like, it's I think if you just do it now and again, I think it's quite nice. And for me, I don't mind it. I actually quite like the fact that, that they use it as an explanation for the dinosaurs being wiped out. I think is okay. But I'm just glad they didn't sort of do it too much. I think they do the Fire of London in the Visitation, and that's all good. But I don't think they do it too much in the Davison era that I can think of anyway.
No, I don't.
So for me, I don't mind it, mate. No, I don't have a problem with it. I think it ties up the story quite well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a good link back, because that little reference to the fossils and at the very beginning, because it was so early on in the story, you may have forgotten about it by the time you get to the end, or sort of halfway through episode 4. So it's when the ship starts to shift in time, isn't it? Because of the antimatter or something that Adric's messing around with.
That's right, yeah. It's like flicking in through different time zones or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so...
But that's good, because I like that, because that's a good way of explaining why the Doctor can't save him as well. Because you are sort of thinking, like, surely the Doctor can get on there and get him off. So it does have a sort of... It doesn't feel too convenient because of that, because you sort of think, the ship's floating between the two, and so it could end up in that time zone, and I quite like that.
Yeah, I like it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a cool link to that little conversation at the beginning of the story. I just find the time shift just a tad bit too convenient for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like when Adric starts to mess and he disables one of the control little puzzles on the control lock. It's like, he's messed. That's altered the time shift, and then when he does the second one, it brings him out of the warp or the shift, and it just so happens to be exactly 65 million years ago. So I find it a little bit confusing, but I still think it's not confusing, convenient, but I still think it's a very cool little link. Okay. What about the sets then? Before we get on to characters, we mentioned that it's the majority of Classic Who, whenever you get on a set, they like to whack the lights up, and it all looks very bright and in your face, especially some of the other Davison stories.
Warriors of the Deep, I'm looking at you.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sets just seem to be very consistently over the top all the time. But Arc of Infinity is a bit like that. All of the sets are really bright all the time. But this one, we're assuming it's down to Peter Grimwade again. But I found them to be built very well and also used cleverly throughout the story. So the one that's used pretty cool is the hangar in the freighter. So it looks like they built just 2 or possibly 3 different sets with that dark background and these big massive metal crates and metal stairways and stuff. But the way that they repeated the sets, they just changed the camera angle or changed the depth of field, and it made it look like there's this huge hangar. So there was a bit where the Doctor and Adric are walking between these huge metal crates, and they come out the other side. And all it is the same set that they entered. It's just a different camera angle. And they made it look like there was loads of Cybermen as well. So I think it's episode 3 where all of the Cybermen start coming out of their containers and out of their little shrink wrap plastic bags. I think they only had about 8 actors, I think, in cyber suits. But the way that they repeated some scenes with lots of different angles, and the way that they used the same set but just shifted the camera and then just repeated it with it made it look like there was loads of Cybermen, and that the hangar was a lot larger than what it actually was, these small sets that they had built. So really appreciate the sets, the set design and stuff, because again, in some classic Who, it can feel like it's just a bit of a theatre production where you've got the main elements of the set and then it's just a black curtain behind. Do you know what I mean?
I think the Cybermen, I think the fact you said, like, you know, there's not that many actual Cybermen in it, but to me it feels like there's an army there.
Loads,
I think that's a credit to direction, because you're quite right. I know they do that sort of camera trickery at the end of episode 3 or whatever, where they sort of split screen it and make it look like there's loads of Cybermen walking towards you, but it does, the overall sort of feel of the story, it feels like there's loads of Cybermen in there, doesn't it? You know, like when they're all having the sort of battle. I know you mentioned the fact the lasers aren't particularly good, but the battle scenes, it feels like there's loads of Cybermen on that ship, even if there's only a handful. So I think that's down to direction, and the sets are good. They are basic, but I think they're used well. And I think the model shots work really well, because quite often another thing that can be jarring about classic Who is when we get a model shot and then it cuts to the sort of action. And in this, we get a model shot of the hangar and then it cuts to the hangar. But I think they gel quite nicely because the models are quite dark as well, aren't they? You know, you get those sort of little tubes that they're supposed to be the things that the Cybermen are hiding in. So yeah, model shots work really well. I think the sets are used very well, considering they are quite limited. And the Cybermen are definitely used well, because for me, it feels like there's loads on that ship. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't sort of sit there thinking, a bit like, I think it's Day of the Daleks, isn't he? There's about 3 Daleks in that. And you sort of think, okay, there's only 3 Daleks, but they keep going around, you know. Whereas in this, it feels like there's loads of Cybermen. So yeah, I think they do a good job with that.
Very good job, indeedy. Let's talk about some characters then. So when we pick up the story, we have this sort of military group. Almost felt a bit like, to me, it felt very similar to the same military guys that we see in Caves.
Oh, yeah, I can see why you'd think that.
Yeah, because the characters are quite similar. So in Caves, we have, what's his face?
Don't ask me the names. I'll never, don't know.
Who's the main sort of military leader guy?
Has he got a tash?
He's got a tash, yeah.
Because this one has as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah. So in both of these things, we have a leader, almost like a brigadier type person, you know, almost like quite tall, dark, dashingly handsome, got the tash and so on.
Got the tash and the very British again.
Yes, yeah. What's his name in Caves? Is it Shallock?
I can't remember, mate.
Anyway, and then in this one, in this one we have Lieutenant Scott, who's again the leader guy, and then the other guy who he liaises with a lot, almost like his second in command, is a guy called Snyder. And it's very similar to Caves. So in Caves we have Salatine. So so we have those 2 guys, and it seems very similar, because at first I thought, is this the same group of military dudes? But obviously not, because they're not linked anyway. However, some of the characters are quite cool, and also they lump in the because it's like an archaeological mission, if you like, because a lot of the military dudes who have gone into the caves already have been killed, and we find out it's those 2 androids that the Cybermen have placed in the caves.
Yeah. So
these guys have gone in to see what's going on, and they've also brought this this woman in. What was her name? Professor Kyle. That's her name, yeah, Claire Clifford. So what do you think to these little groups? So the three main ones that we hear most of all is Lieutenant Scott, the leader guy, Snyder, who sits outside and just watches the screen, the little radar thing, and Professor Kyle, who's there as like the geologist to look at all the bones and all that stuff while they're doing the potential rescue. So I thought those guys were okay, you know. I thought they were pretty good.
I thought they were pretty good, mate. So as I said, they do have to carry the majority of episode 1, and it could easily have been quite boring watching them, I think, if they weren't up to a good enough standard of acting, if you like. You can, you know, if someone's a bit weak, you don't really care about them. So if they start getting picked off and killed like they do in this one, you know, if you're sat there not caring about them, you get bored. But I thought these guys are pretty good. And it's funny because you were saying about Snyder watching them on the scanner. I was just wondering what happens to him, because is he just still sat there looking at the scanner thinking, where have they all gone? Because I think at some point we just forget about him, don't we? It's like they all get taken off in the TARDIS and we don't see him later on, do we? He's just sort of sat there watching him on the scanner getting picked off one by one, I think. Yeah. So he's probably just still sat there now thinking, where have they gone? Anyway, I think they're pretty good. As a cast, I think they gel quite well. And who's the guy who's the leader with the tash?
Lieutenant Scott.
Lieutenant Scott. Yeah. Because I actually thought he was quite good because he's really getting into the part. There's a bit where he throws Davison across the set and he really properly throws him. Even Davison looks a bit like, oh, okay, in his sort of very mild mannerism that he would have been. Oh. But he really throws Davison when he's like, you've murdered them all and get away from that rock. And he's into the part. Is what I'm saying. Definitely. I think he's, I know he's doing the sort of typical BBC British thing that everyone did back then, but I do think he's quite good at it. So yeah, I like this little group, and I do sort of feel for them when they're getting killed off one by one. I cared enough about them, and like I said, they have to carry the episode a little bit to get it going, ready for the Cybermen reveal, and I think they do a good job. Yeah, I think they're pretty good. Yeah, they do. It's one of those. You know, as we've seen many, many times in Classic Who and all the rest of it, sometimes the supporting cast can be a little bit hit and miss, but... Yeah, well, they can be, yeah. No, I thought these guys did a decent job, and they're consistently good throughout as well. Even in episode 3 and 4, where Lieutenant Scott and stuff, you know, they're desperate to leave the TARDIS and go and rescue the Doctor, and, you know, they're on the ball. You know, they're taking it seriously, which is obviously good. Yeah, I know what you mean, actually. Yeah. That is the thing, isn't it? You do feel like the cast are taking it seriously. The supporting cast, I mean. You do feel like they're taking it seriously. You don't feel like they've just turned up and, we're in Doctor Who this week, right? Oh, this is fun. You know, they are pretty good. Yeah. They are, yes. What did you think to the crew of the freighter then? So that consisted of 3 characters alongside just sort of general staff, if you like, on the freighter. But the 3 main dudes were Ringway, who was the guy who was in cahoots with the Cybermen, who's the traitor, by Alex Sabine, Berger, who's June Bland, and then Briggs, played by Beryl Reid. So those 3, and a very interesting dynamic between those 3, a little bit. So Alex Sabine, who plays Ringway, he's the guy that seems like he's desperate to impress. He really wants to get his career up the ladder, but Briggs by Beryl Reid's just constantly nagging him to shut up and telling him she wants her bonus. I want my bonus. And then you've got Berger, who's the June Bland, who's she's kind of stuck in the middle a little bit. She's got her own job to do, but she's constantly... Where have I seen her before? Because all the way through I was thinking, I know her. I've seen her I'm sure she's been in Doctor Who again. Battlefield. Yeah, she was in Battlefield. Is she the blind lady behind the bar? Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Right. Okay, because all the way it's driving me mad. I kept thinking, I know that actress. I'm just checking now to see if I am right. I think it is anyway. But yeah, Battlefield. Right. Okay. I mean, she's quite good. It's a shame she doesn't get a bit more in the script, really, because I think we've got a good actress there that is really good when she's on screen, but she doesn't get an awful lot to do, does she? Not really. No. And same with Ringway, actually. I mean, it's great when he gets the payoff and the Cybermen just shoot him. You know, thanks for helping us get on board. Here you go. Here's your reward. A bullet through the neck. So poor old Ringway. Well, no, not poor old Ringway, because he's a traitor, but I think he's pretty good in the part. Beryl Reid, I love her, but she's miscast, I'm afraid. I mean, I really like Beryl Reid, and she is a great actress. You know, she was BAFTA award winning, wasn't she? She's done loads of great work.
Loads. Yeah.
But I think she was a little bit lost, really, in this part. I don't think I think Davison says on the making of, really, she sort of read the lines, but I think she sort of said herself, I haven't got a clue what's going on, you know. And it does feel a little bit like that. I kind of love her in one sense, but I have to say she's just very miscast. I don't believe in her at all, really. And it's a shame, because anyone who's sort of watching this now who doesn't really know who Beryl Reid was will probably think she's not a particularly good actress, because I don't think she's great in it. But she was a really good actress. But yeah, she's just not very good in this, I'm afraid to say. And I think it is purely down to the fact that she's just miscast in the part, you know.
Right.
There's a great thing on the making of where Davison says that she sort of turned to him and said, I don't know what's going on here. I haven't got a clue what's going on in the script. I'm just reading the lines. And he's like, oh, right. And she said, on one of the takes, she's like, we're heading towards such and such. And then, you know, the camera's supposed to cut. And she says, is that somewhere off the Earl's Court Road? And just sort of turned and laughed. And apparently no one else did. It just sort of went like, it's a real clanger. But apparently she was really good fun on set, which I can imagine. So I'm sure they had a great time having her as the guest star that week, but yeah, she doesn't work in it for me, I'm afraid. I kind of love her in one sense, but I can also see that she's not very suited to the part, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you mean. It's it's one of those frustrating times, isn't it, where, because she's a very good actor, you know.
She is, yeah.
You can tell that she's got her acting chops through years of experience, and she knows what she's doing. It just feels a little bit like, exactly like you said, she's just miscast. She just doesn't really fit that. You know what I mean? She doesn't really fit that type of character, because
she looks a bit lost.
A little bit, yeah. Like she's not really suited to playing that type of sci-fi role, if that makes sense, because she's meant to be this hard-nosed, and she does come across fairly well like that. She's got this hard-nosed, thick-skinned sort of, just don't bother me with rubbish, let's just get home.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she feels like her lines weren't delivered with enough confidence at times.
That's it. Yeah. Sometimes you get a feeling that an actor thinks, because they're in Doctor Who, they can sort of ham it up a little, or they don't take it 100% seriously. And I kind of get that feeling a little bit with this, that she just thought, you can see it's just a job. She's not really into it. Whereas, for example, the other guy we're on about is really throwing himself into it. You know, he may not be the best actor, Scott, but he's going for it. Whereas Beryl does feel like she's just kind of saying the lines a little bit, I'm afraid. Yeah. She's not bad though. I mean, we've had worse, and to be fair, they must have been thrilled to have had her in Doctor Who. She was quite a name back in the 80s, so it's quite a good guest star to have in the show. I just wish she'd sort of been given a different part, really.
Right.
Or maybe even in a different series, maybe even in a different story. I think she could have been wonderful. I can sort of see her in, like the Stones of Blood, like the old woman in that crazy sort of, I can see her being in a story like that and being absolutely brilliant. But as a sort of spaceship commander, the sort of, bashing out all these insults, it doesn't really work for me, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay. What about the Cybermen themselves then? So we have there are two main Cybermen, aren't we? We've got the Cyber Lieutenant, played by Mark Hardy, and the Cyber Leader, played by David Banks. Those two, I think you and I have picked up on this before, but in some Cybermen stories, you often have this thing where the Cybermen are acting as one conscious thing, and they don't have any independence or personality to them. So every single cyber person is just going towards one goal, and they're like a cutout, a cookie cutter of whatever. And for me, I really liked the fact that the Cyber Lieutenant and the Cyber Leader sometimes had different opinions. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've got the cyber leader who's very much like, right, let's steamroll through, let's get
blow it all up.
Yeah, let's do this. But then you've got the lieutenant who's like, actually, leader, this is going on, so let's be cautious. And the leader's like, no, we have to secure the doctor immediately, or we have to detonate immediately, or it's time to take control of the freighter. And you've got the lieutenant like, he's on board. Don't get me wrong. He's absolutely part of the plan, and but he's got a different opinion to the cyber leader, which you don't often see in some Cybermen stories. You often have the leader, and then all the other Cybermen just follow orders, and that's it. So performances were pretty good, though. Very, very old school British delivery. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I like the fact that they've got a bit more intelligence in this, because sometimes the Cybermen are just written as just, gun-toting, brainless idiots, and they do actually seem to be working around a plan and talking to each other and engaging, and there's more to them in this story, and I like that. So yeah, I agree with you about the lieutenant, throwing up a few ideas. I absolutely love David Banks as the cyber leader. I know he's a bit British, but he does have a gravitas about him, which I really like. And an example of that would be when he first walks in onto the Starship Bridge, and he's towering above everyone, and he kind of circles the room, doesn't he, until he gets to the doctor. And I just think he's great as the cyber leader. I really do. I know, like you said, he's perhaps a little bit too British, but I think he's brilliant. I really do like him as the cyber leader. And I think he's really good in the scenes. I mean, that bit when he's talking to the doctor about emotions and why you don't need them, and he's like, kill her. And, I have to say, the doctor takes quite a long time just to stop the, I'm surprised Tegan's not dead on the floor, to be honest with you, because he takes ages to actually just say, oh, no, okay, yeah, all right, you're right. I mean, it's not as if he's given away, a top secret. All he's doing is admitting that emotions are a weakness. It's it's no big deal to stop poor old Tegan getting shot. So I'm surprised he doesn't speak up sooner. But yeah, I do think David Banks is good, very good in this as the cyber leader.
Yeah, I completely agree, buddy.
Yeah,
I think he's although it does have that old school British delivery, but that was just the way.
It's just it is, yeah.
Back in the 80s, and even from the beginning of Doctor Who up until probably the late 80s, a good old classic threatening villain just had a proper British accent. That was just the way. For some reason, that's what they thought that was the most threatening, sort of sinister accent, I suppose.
And I think some people might watch it now and say it's a bit panto performance, a bit panto villain, kill him at once and all this. But there's something about, and this sort of just is part of the charm of classic Who, is that it kind of works, I think. I love it. I don't care if it's a little bit hammy or a little bit OTT. I just love, I just love the performance, I think, because it's fun, isn't it? It's a fun performance without going too over the top.
Absolutely.
He's just evil. I am the cyber leader, and that's how it is, and it works.
No, it does. I agree, mate. Yeah. Okay. Anyone we've missed before we get onto our TARDIS team?
No, I don't think so.
What about Tegan and Nyssa then? Because they have very different roles in this one. Tegan's very much getting stuck in. She's out there she's with the other military guys, and she's taking on Cybermen, and she's doing her thing. Nyssa, which we came to see this a few times, unfortunately, with Nyssa, where because she's meant to be Tegan's the very rough and ready, ready to throw fists around, get stuck in. Nyssa, because she's the smarter, a lot more similar to the Doctor in terms of her personality. She's very calm and collected and relies on the maths and the science to get stuff figured out. She sometimes gets relegated to the TARDIS and is there just to monitor the screens and the controls. And I just wish she'd done a bit more in this, because Tegan gets some tasty scenes, and Nyssa's just...
It's funny, isn't it? Because, obviously J&T decided that the TARDIS was too crowded and it was too difficult for the writers to write for 3 companions as well as the Doctor, which you can understand. But it does seem that actually out of the 3 of them, this is the one that always gets shoved in the TARDIS for nothing to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, as much as people might criticize Adric as a companion, at least he actually adds some fun to the stories, be it in an unintentional way sometimes when he's just moaning and being a brat. He does often get more to do. You know, he's in there kicking pterodactyls and all that sort of stuff, and he's, you know, doing his mathematical equations. So they do seem to be able to give Adric stuff to do, whereas poor old Nyssa does get relegated to the TARDIS quite a lot, you know. Yeah. So in a way, it's surprising that they go to get rid of Adric. But then again, you can see some of the reasons that they did. But yeah, I think Tegan definitely gets more to do. She does get stuck in there shooting Cybermen. And really, the only thing where Nyssa shines in the story is at the beginning, really, when she's trying to calm the Doctor down and say, you know, just let him get it out of his system and all that. So she's quite nice, you know, with Davison in those scenes. But if you were the producer back then and you're looking at those three companions, which one would you have killed off Adric, or which one would you have, if you could only have the Doctor traveling with one companion, which one would you have him traveling with?
I would say Tegan.
You'd have what, Tegan you'd kill off, or Tegan you'd have traveling?
I'd have traveling with Tegan, yeah.
Just her, yeah. Yeah. She's strongest, I think.
Yeah, and I think she provides the biggest contrast or dynamic to the Doctor.
To Davison.
Yeah, because I think that Nyssa is too similar in her character traits. She's too similar to the Doctor. Whereas Tegan's very in your face, and you know, I just think she provides a more of a dynamic, but more of an entertaining story if it was just her and the Doctor.
Who would you have killed off? Would you have killed off Adric, same as JNT?
No.
You'd have killed off Nyssa?
Yeah.
I'm slightly inclined to agree with you, actually. I'm just sort of thinking of, if they'd have gone on with the rest of Davison's era with the Doctor, Tegan and Adric, I think we would have had a slightly more interesting dynamic.
I think so, yeah.
Because like you said, Nyssa, I like Nyssa as a companion. I think she's a good character. She's certainly been written very well for On Big Finish. But in the series, yeah, even when they get rid of Adric, very often she doesn't get a lot to do. So, yeah, I might have been inclined to have got rid of Nyssa rather than Adric. I don't know.
Yeah, because although Adric, and again,
he's annoying, but he does bring something to the table each week, whether it's good or bad. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And depending on which bunch of Who fans you ask, he's either extremely annoying and everyone's very glad that he was killed off, or he's a really good character and has a lot of potential and perhaps could have gone on to have some cracking stories with Davison. But yeah, just for me, I just think that Nyssa's just too similar to the Doctor and doesn't provide. She's got some great little bits here and there throughout her run with Davison, and with Baker, it just feels like she was a little bit underused.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's no thing to Sarah Sutton, because I think she's great as Nyssa, but it's more down to the writers, isn't it? Yeah. They seem to struggle to find stuff for her to do. It's good when she's building things, like in The Visitation, she takes about 5 days to build that sonic sound device or whatever it is. But so it's good when they do give her stuff. It's just that, yeah, bless her, she's very often just relegated to the TARDIS.
Yeah. What about Matthew Waterhouse then? Adric.
Well, I think he should have put a bit more into his last story. I can just see that his performance is a bit deflated in this.
Because he's miffed, is that? Because he got the boot? Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
Right.
I think he's, it's no secret that he was upset that he was, given the boot. But I think, as Davison says in the making of this, that he turned to Matthew at the time and said, "Look, I can understand you're upset, but think about it this way. What a story to go out on. No one's going to forget the death of Adric, but even that wasn't enough to, take away the blues." And to me, it comes across on screen. I don't feel like I can understand him being upset, but if it was me, I'd have sort of tried to get over that and think, wow, look at this script though. Look at this story that I'm going out on. I'm going to really grab this to both horns, and I'm going to go out with the performance of my lifetime on this one. But for me, he doesn't. He feels really down, and he's like saying goodbye, even when he's not even dead yet, and he's sort of saying, "I'll see you soon," and just giving this sort of limp little wave, and
I see.
You know,
right.
and you know what I mean, it just feels to me like Matthew Waterhouse is just so upset that he's been fired or that he's leaving, that he just doesn't give his sort of final performance. I just wish he'd just given it a little bit more, right. Even when he's shyly tapping away at the thing, the whatever it is, the little typewriter on the that's blowing up and all. It just feels to me like he's just so upset about leaving that he's just not giving the best performance he could. I'd like to have seen a bit more from him, because I do like Adric. I like the companion. He's, for good or bad, I always find him entertaining in one way or another on screen. So I just wanted to see a bit more from Matthew in this. His final story, he's literally going out with a bang. But it just feels like he's just a little bit too upset about it. Yeah.
And I think, I concur with you, mate. I think it comes across a little bit like he knows that he's on the way out. Yeah,
it does. Yeah.
But from an actor's point of view, he's kind of playing it like he's given a performance which is good enough, but it's not his best performance because he's a bit sour.
He's sour, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I could be giving you like an amazing performance here, but because you've decided to get rid of me, I'm not going to give you the best that I've got. I'm just sulking a little bit. It's just good old fashioned.
You can almost feel, you can almost feel the sulking coming through on screen. I think the best bit of acting from him is when that Cyberman sort of comes through the door half dead, going, and he sort of turns and gives this horrified look.
Yeah.
And he does look properly scared of that Cyberman. That's the best bit of acting from him in it, I think, really.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's an okay performance, but I would have loved to have seen Matthew really go for it in this and literally just go out with a bang. Yeah.
No, I agree, mate. Can completely agree. It's a shame because, like Davison had said to him at the time years ago, this will be, what a story to
people won't forget. Yeah.
Yeah. And often whenever you mention Earthshock, this is the subject that people normally gravitate towards first. It's the death of Adric. It's the
big deal.
The milestone in the show that we mentioned at the beginning of this review, where it's the first time that a companion has been killed and stayed dead, and we have the very somber sort of no music credits and just the camera on the star, the broken star. In his little badge, and it's a real. Even though I'm not Adric's biggest fan, the ending still sort of hits me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real potent, although it can be classed as cheesy, I suppose, nowadays. I think it works so well having just the silent credits and Adric's little badge that's broken up. I think it's, I think it works really well, and it's really delivers that message that if you travel with the Doctor, you're not invincible, you're still vulnerable to this stuff. So, and it's a shame that he didn't I mean, it's easy for us to sit here and say that, but when because he was how old was he when he did this? He was quite young, wasn't he?
18 maybe, I can't remember. Yeah.
So when you're young and you haven't got life experience and, it's very easy for us to sit here and say he should have done this and he should have realised this and he should have thought about this. When you're that age, I suppose you don't really...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally get it. If I was in his shoes, I would have been gutted to be leaving as well. But I love the fact, that the fact that they make the gold star is how the Doctor defeats the Cybermen, which is really cool. That he's holding his brother's little rope at the end. So it's a kind of a love letter to Adric as well as being his death, And episode 4 is so good. That whole sort of build up to the Cybermen getting on board the TARDIS and the Doctor can't follow them through the space continue, and all that stuff. It's all really going on, and it's quite vicious actually for Davison's Doctor to kill the Cybermen like that, because Davison's Doctor, like you said, a lot of people say he's a bit lightweight, but not at the end of this. He's not. He shoots that Cyberman about 4 times to make sure he's actually dead. Even when he's on the floor dead, he still gives him another quick blast of the gun just to be sure. That's a brilliant ending to the episode, though, isn't it? It's all kicking off in the TARDIS, because I kept thinking, like, wow, how are they going to get these Cybermen off? They're like they're on that TARDIS. There's the Doctor really does feel helpless at that point. And I think it's just such a good ending to the story. And I like the silent credits as well. I think it needed it. It would have been a bit strange if they'd have gone out on the theme. The only thing is that I can see that, they're all trying not to laugh in that very last few moments. You can see that. Davison says it, the more they were told not to laugh, the more they found it hard to not laugh. So you can see that all three actors are really trying hard not to laugh when they're saying that Adric's dead. But I think they get away with it just about. I think episode 4 is fantastic. It just builds and builds and builds, and and then obviously we get boom, he's gone, and there's nothing the Doctor can do about it. And it's brilliant.
It is, yeah. That's the thing that makes the whole thing even more upsetting, really, because the Doctor always finds a way to save the day.
Exactly.
Save everybody.
Yeah.
And when the Cyberman, the cyber leader, doesn't believe him, when the Doctor says, "Look, there's nothing I can do.
You will follow them.
You will follow."
That's when Davison's on top of his game. So he's like, "I can't. There's no way I can do it." He's really sort of into it at that point. Yeah.
So regardless of your feelings towards Adric, it is a great way for him to go out, and it's a great,
I think so,
sort of, but it's just a shame that he wasn't giving it his all. He does seem to be holding back in a little bit of a sulk, but there we go. And what about Davison then? I mean, it's for his first series, I think, especially from, I would say, episode 3 and 4 especially, he's just banging away on, all cylinders are firing.
I think, definitely. I was going to say, I think he's perfectly good in the first episode, but but he really hits his stride after the Cybermen come into it. He looks like he's just loving acting alongside the Cybermen. I think he just his sort of performance seems to go up a notch when the Cybermen come into it, and he's by the end, he's great. He looks properly lost as well at the end, doesn't he? When he's realised he's lost Adric. He does look like, what am I going to do? I can't remember how do they pick up from this at the beginning of Time Flight? Because we reviewed Time Flight ages ago, and I don't remember Adric getting much of a mention. Is it kind of like, shame about Adric. Right, now let's go off to Heathrow, and I just don't remember them talking much about him. I might need to give the first few minutes another watch just to see, because you'd think that this would have massive repercussions. Like, you might think that Nyssa and Tegan might question traveling with the Doctor from this point onwards, but I don't remember much of that in the following story.
I think
they must mention it.
Yeah, they do. I think at the beginning of it, they do seem a bit down.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of Time Flight, they're still a bit before they land at Heathrow. The mood is not amazing. And so they don't actually mention in detail what happened with Adric, but you can tell that they're a little bit, especially Tegan, she's not happy that the Doctor's allowed Adric to be killed.
I kind of feel like watching it again just to see, because I just don't remember there being much aftermath, and there should be, really. I mean, forget your thoughts about Adric to one side. There should be repercussions from this in the following story, and I just don't remember much of that in Time Flight, but maybe I need to give it another watch. I don't know. Don't really gravitate towards Time Flight that often, but I might do.
No, I mean, they're definitely a bit down and sad because they've lost Adric. I remember that at the beginning of Time Flight, but I remember it doesn't last very long.
No.
I remember once they land at Heathrow, they're sort of into that story and off they go. And there is another scene where Tegan mentions Adric to the Doctor, and the Doctor's face just changes immediately.
Right.
And you can tell that he's sort of gutted that he couldn't save him. They're talking about something unrelated, and Tegan says something like, "Oh, you mean like what happened with Adric?" And I remember the Doctor's face just dropping immediately, and he's gutted. But they don't mourn him for long.
They don't dwell on it.
No.
I think the only other thing I can remember is that the Fifth Doctor's last words are Adric, aren't they? So he remembers him at the end. He's like, Adric.
Another scene where he's trying not to laugh.
Yeah, it's another scene where he's trying to laugh. Yeah.
Oh, poor old Adric. But no, I think Davison's really, because Davison's one of these Doctors, isn't he, where you can tell when he's not really into a story.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And I think this one, he's just grabbing it and he's properly going for it. I mean, like you said, episode 1 he's good, but I think probably halfway through 2, and especially in episode 3 and 4, he's very, very good.
Yeah,
very
definitely into it by by then.
Okay. So anything you want to mention, mate, before we
the only other thing I've got on my list is that we talked a little bit about the production values earlier, and I just think they're very good in this, considering when this story was made. And the bit that I particularly like, and I haven't mentioned yet, is when the Cyberman comes through the door of the spaceship and he fuses. They do something and he fuses with the door, so he sort of molds into the door, and it's done so well for the time. And there's something really eerie about having this sort of Cyberman half stuck in a door throughout the rest of the episode. He's just kind of there, and I just think it's a really cool piece of production value for the time this was made. In fact, I think the whole production value of this story is really high. It feels almost a bit like a sort of anniversary story in a way, doesn't it? Yeah, it could almost be. It's sort of up there with Remembrance, I think. So that's the only other bit I got. Was I loved the Cyberman fused into the door. I think it's a really good effect. Really well done. Yeah,
it reminded me of the Han Solo trapped in carbonite look.
Yes, it is. Yeah, carbonite Cyberman. Yeah, it absolutely is.
That looks really cool.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Let's jump in with some scores then. I think it's you to go first. What do you got?
Okay, so I'm going with a 9 out of 10 for this one. It's a 9. It's right up there with Remembrance for me. It's
You're up there.
It only really loses a point really for Beryl Reid, bless her, and and for Matthew not giving 110%. I don't feel so. There's very little. I just can't think of much to criticise. So it's a very, very strong story. I think 9 out of 10.
Snap. That's a 9 for me as well. Yeah. It's just very difficult to fault, really.
It's
as we've talked through it, because normally you and I try to give a balanced review and pick out positives and negatives, but I'm really struggling to. The only faults I can give is the whole dinosaurs thing and how convenient it was. That's not amazing for me, and also, Adric. I just feel like he should have really blew the roof off. With his performance and stuff, but it's not terrible. It's just, but overall, it's a cracking story. Really
it is a good story, and we didn't talk about the music in it much, but Malcolm Clarke's score's good in it. Like it doesn't, in the Attack of the Cybermen, he does that annoying all the way through it, and it gets really annoying. In this one, thank goodness he tones it down, and because that might have knocked a little notch off the score if he'd have had that go running through it all the way through. So overall, very good production.
Very good, and also if somebody said, I need a Davison story to watch, this is a good, although there's a little bit of carryover with Adric into the start of the next one, overall, it's a really good self-contained Davison story.
I think so, yeah.
Okie dokie. What did our awesome listeners think? We had a couple of audio clips in. The first one is our regular reviewer. This is Sammy Satine.
G'day, Gary and Adam, Sammy Satine here. So, Earthshock. It's a good story. Believe it or not, and brace yourselves. Sit down before I say this. Seriously. I like this story. I know. A Fifth Doctor story I like. Who knew? Poor Adric. I'm sad he died. The Cybermen really need to stop saying excellent quite so often. I give it 8 mathematical gold stars out of 10. See ya.
Nice. So Sammy liking a Fifth Doctor story there.
Yeah, cool.
Excellent.
This is a reviewer that's come back to us who used to send in loads of reviews, and he sounds quite different. This is long-time listener. This is Alex Kingdom.
Hello, Guy and Adam with the Big Blue Box podcast. How you guys doing? Just want to say congratulations on 200 episodes. I remember when I first came on the show around the 50 episode mark, and it was Under the Lake. Oh, God, I sounded horrible back then. I still do sound horrible now, but at least I don't sound like a mouse. Anyway, Earthshock, it's really, really good. Like, it's probably one of the best episodes in Doctor Who history. Adric's death, just really good, really well worked into a story, considering the writing around the 80s. It's probably one of the weaker points of Doctor Who. I think Davison's era is really good and strong. I think Earthshock, it might be my favourite Davison story behind the Caves Androzani. I think the Cybermen are really good in it. And the fact we'll never know if Adric was right just is so... the story between the Fifth Doctor and Adric's exceptional. The threat of the Cybermen is probably the best thing about this because they're so threatening. And Adric's kind of mood and angst, I don't know if that's the right word, towards the Fifth Doctor throughout his era was a little bit annoying, but this kind of gives it the ultimate payoff, where the Fifth Doctor feels responsible for what happens to Adric, and it's really, it's really dark for Classic Who, which I like. So I'm going to give Earthshock 10 out of 10. I really like it. But I just want to say again, congratulations to 100 guys. I'm really thankful for what you guys do every week. Put a smile on my face, entertain us. Here's to the next, however many episodes you guys do. Let's say 250, because the next 100 might scare you guys. So yeah, I'll see you guys very soon. Have a nice rest of the show and have a nice rest of the week. Thank you guys all so much.
That's never Alex Kingdom.
That's Alex, yeah.
Wow, good to hear you, man.
Yeah, it's very cool. Thank you so much for that. And our third audio clip, this is from one of our own writers. This is Maria Kalitichu.
Oh.
Hello, Adam and Gary. Maria here, and I couldn't resist sending an audio clip as you are reviewing one of my favourite stories ever, Earthshock. So, I finally know how the dinosaurs died out. I love this story. The direction is superb, and it's got the best build-up to a genuine cliffhanger that I've seen in ages when we reveal the Cybermen. I love the creepy androids mushing all the humans, and when we move to the freighter, there's that lovely homage to the Tomb of the Cybermen as the Cybermen break through the silos. People criticise Beryl Reid in this, but I like her rough, tough captain. She really plays it like she's on a ship. The direction is really good. Peter Grimwade gets the best out of everyone. Adric's death is a standout moment of 1980s Who. Uncompromising, dramatic, and silent credits. 10 out of 10 for me. Bye-bye.
Wowzers.
Excellent. Another 10 out of 10. Cheers, Maria.
Another 10. Crikey. Wow. I'm going to read a few of our reviews that we had in on social media. You guys went nuts for this episode, and we received so many, so I can't read them all out, and I can't read them all in full, but I will pick out a few of them. So Mark Donaldson, another one of our writers, says, a mind-bogglingly overrated story. Oh dear. Cybermen that may as well be Monster of the Week, robot assassins. A huge supporting cast of essentially cannon fodder, a noble sacrifice, an emotional ending that is neither earned or paid off. Wow.
He's sacked.
He's gone.
No.
No. Interesting thought there, Mark. It's not often you hear, a huge negative for Earthshock, but there we go. Theta Sigma podcast. Next to Caves, this is without doubt one of Davison's best stories. Yeah. Suspense, disagreements within the TARDIS team. Davison is outstanding best, and the triumphant return for the Cybermen. 10 out of 10.
A 10 out of 10.
Paul, Twitter name PWP Waring, says, best Davison story after Androzani. And finally we get rid of annoying Adric. But it says, how did the bomb and androids get into the caves? And what happened to the guy on the surface with the scanner?
Yeah, that's what I said. He's still sat there.
Still sat there. He might be
100 years old.
Yeah, he might still be there, just a skeleton in a quarry. In the scanner. Mike Friendly says, truly outstanding story for me in the underrated season 19. David Banks steals the show with a great performance, and the Cybermen are fantastic. It gives it 10 pieces of gold out of 10.
Nice.
John Belay says, love this story, even with Africa gone after... Sorry, he mistyped there. He says, even with the freighter gone, Nyssa still sunk into the background. I think he's meant Adric, even with Adric gone.
Yeah.
Bloody auto-corrects on this thing. He said, love the story. Even with Adric gone after this, Nyssa still sunk into the background, sadly. But it's wonderful to see those big metal bleeps again. Dayskin, I think that's right. Twitter name's DAISK3N, Dayskin. As a Cybermen episode, it was pretty standard. I don't like 80s Cybermen. What I liked once, I said it on Twitch, was how Adric had a chance to leave the ship but goes back in at the last moment.
The fool.
So his death wasn't an accident like I always thought, but a proper trap of destiny. Rick Moran says one of Davison's best and a script that actually served Adric well. Yes. IB Productions, Earthshock, top quality story. The Cybermen are great and some of the main cast. It's just episode 1 drags a little, but overall 9 out of 10.
Oh.
John Winston Scott, easily the best story of Davison's first series. Can still remember the terrible shock I experienced as a 9-year-old when Adric died.
Yeah.
Seems crazy as I'd celebrate his exit now, but it packed a real punch back then. And we got the flashbacks, magic stuff. 9 out of 10. Harry Brown, Earthshock is one of those stories that will stick with you forever. 10 out of 10. TARDIS Net 66, one of my favourite Cybermen stories. Shows the Cybermen at their most powerful, with the brilliant cyber leader and a great cliffhanger to episode 1. Also shows the tragedy and consequences of time travel, and with the death of Adric, which adds reality to the series.
Yes.
Over on Facebook, let's pick a few of these out. Martin Arnold, have you ever wondered what it's like to broadcast 200 podcasts in the fourth dimension? Brilliant. He says, Adric, no, even your little green wellies couldn't save you from the wrath of John Nathan Turner. I have to say that the DVD extras are a bit of a buzzkill. It's just a load of people laughing at the silent credits, including Stephen Moffat.
What? No.
I remember the effect that this had on me as a kid was quite effective. As a 10-year-old Whovian anyway, I think that speaks for itself, and my Earthshock remains a classic. Let's read a few more. Ash Prosser, what an episode. A serial even new Who fans should give a chance to watch. The acting is great and the story is solid and the sets are amazing for the time. 9 out of 10. Jason Thayer, I never actually disliked Adric, but I can see why people did. At least he got a good exit. 10 out of 10. Miles McKenzie, congrats on episode 200.
Cheers, man.
I thoroughly enjoy Earthshock, one of Davison's most memorable and best stories for me. Overall solid 7.5. Kevin Mullin, without a shadow of a doubt, one of Davison's absolute best stories. Everything about Earthshock just works. The acting from everyone, including Matthew Waterhouse, is of the highest standard. The script is as dark as Doctor Who has ever been. The music fits perfectly. Gives it 10 excellent clenched fists out of 10. Jeff Waddle, certainly one of the better Davison ones, but I don't find it as good as most other fans do. Beryl Reid is so miscast, it's cringeworthy. Everyone else does an excellent job. 7 out of 10. Lewis Palmer, congrats on 200 marvellous episodes.
Cheers, mate.
Earthshock, absolutely outstanding story for me. It's the final. For me, it's the... this is the best that the 80s Cybermen ever got. They're true tacticians and a proper force to be reckoned with. 8.5. Yes. And lastly, Joseph Howarth, the best story from Davison's era. And I still regard this one as one of my favourites. And I must have seen it 4 or 5 times now. Superb acting, superb story. 9 out of 10.
Awesome stuff.
Cool. And like I said, we got loads and loads of reviews in, so I'm apologising. I haven't got time to read them all out. But if you don't follow us or like us on Twitter and Facebook, jump over there and do that, and you'll be able to read all of this stuff and interact with other Who fans.
Indeed. And we do read them all. I was going to say, even if we don't have time to read them out on the show, we do read all the comments. And we love interacting with you guys.
Yes, absolutely. So I think overall Earthshock gets a resounding positive thumbs up from us.
Mostly, yeah, apart from our writer there is not very keen.
Mark. I think Mark needs to put an article out on that a bit more in depth about why.
Yes, explain yourself.
Why it's a clanger, but overall.
Explain yourself now.
Overall, very cool though. Next week, it's the turn of Torchwood. So,
Torchwood.
What is it next week, buddy?
So next week, Small Worlds is the episode.
Small Worlds.
Don't remember that at all. Don't remember it. Don't even know what it's about.
Yeah, I thought this, when I saw it on the schedule, I thought I'd seen all of Torchwood, all of it, but I don't remember this one for some reason.
I must have seen it because I've seen them all.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, but yeah, I don't know. And it's amazing. We're not even halfway through series 1 yet. I thought we were nearly done, but
no.
There we go. So get your discs out and get that watch. We'll be asking for your reviews and thoughts next week. So Torchwood, Small World. And I think we're going to do them, mate, for 200.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sticking with us for episode 200, and all of you guys that have listened for the past few years and brought us up to this point. It's all because of you. There's no point us sitting here in front of microphones, chatting away and talking rubbish,
waffling on,
if there's nobody to hear it. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the reviews that you guys have shoved onto iTunes and the other podcast networks. Thank you for sending in your reviews each and every week. But just thank you so much if you've just listened, even if you're a long-time listener, regular listener, or if you've listened to us just once or twice. We very much appreciate your time to sit down and listen to two nutty, crazy Who fans talking rubbish. So thank you very much. It's been awesome. And that's the end of the podcast. No more. We're going to leave it there. To hell with Series 11. No, just kidding. We'll hopefully be around for a long while yet.
Whenever that may be, Series 11.
Whenever, yeah. In the meantime, though, head over to the website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our episodes on there. Plus, it's got links off to the social networks. So jump over to there, give us a like and a follow. We chat Doctor Who plenty during the week in between the shows on a Friday. And we've got a really cool community of Who fans that chat and all that stuff. There's also buttons on there to link over to the podcast networks. The main one being iTunes. And if you're an iTunes listener, if you could spare a minute for a review or a rating, that would be awesome, because that really helps. But we're on all the other networks as well. Just do a search for us on there. Also, check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag.
Geek's Handbag.
Check out Adam's YouTube channel. So many cool videos on there. He's done 2 or 3 really cool ones in the last couple of weeks.
I've done loads lately, yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
With socks off.
And Adam's also on the regular socials as well. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Give him a like and a follow. But yeah, give his YouTube channel a subscribe. You won't be disappointed. So many cool videos. Okie dokie, until next week for episode 201. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...